All right, so today, welcome to the show. I've got Ernst here with me today, and Ernst, you know me a little bit, eh? So you're supposed to introduce me to the show.
Because this is the Peter van der Spy podcast, I heard, as I glance over to our mystery guest. But before we get to our mystery guest, let's talk about you, Peter. You've done a whole bunch of stuff, a motorsport enthusiast, race car driver, you've done motocross, aviation background, flying presidents all over the place, getting shot down in Mozambique, a bit of an adventurer, and now you've got a podcast.
Yeah, so we can talk stories about all our epic shit that we've got up to over the years.
Let's do that.
And so welcome everybody, and if you like this program, you can like, share, subscribe. We'd like you to if you like the content. And today we have a guest. He started off by getting involved in supercar touring, the super touring car days. He was part of that, and he was an independent stroke privateer. He knows a lot about the drivers. He knows a lot of drivers from the era. He's raced for many years, and he's nearly as old as I am, I think. And he did the Renault Clio Cup, leading up to touring cars. And then he did some fun bug stuff as well at Spa. Wow, with his son, I believe. We'll get into that. And then there's the Formula Supercar Championships locally. And he's a businessman. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford these type of things to race like this, because damn, racing costs so much bloody money, and we're going to get into that. And so the 26th season, I think, is a 2025 ELMS Champion, 2022, 2024, and the 2025 Asian Le Mans LMP3 Vice Champion. Is that what you call it? A vice champion? Yeah. Sometimes I don't get this racing lingo 100% correct, but
I think you're giving too many clues now, because now I'm starting to figure out who this person is.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's get down to his big achievements recently, and the ELMS Championship, second in the Asian Le Mans. Now that's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's big. From racing locally, he's even driven my race car that I currently have. He's driven it in the past and won some championships with that. The Juno I'm specifically talking about. And I believe he's supposed to retire about 3 to 4 years ago.
Not a chance.
It didn't happen. And he's a very pleasant human being, I believe. We're soon to find out. We've crossed paths occasionally on the racetrack, and I've always found him to be a very serious guy who likes to do things properly, perfectionist, which is, you got to be in this racing if you want to really get somewhere. And even if you're not winning, it's nice to do things properly, and it's really difficult in this country sometimes to do things properly. The standard is coming up now, I believe. Anyway, today we have Nick Adcock on the program, and Nick, welcome to the program, and there's a lot that I want to talk about today, and maybe you'd like to just introduce yourself briefly. Who is Nick Adcock, and when did you get this racing bug going? How many years ago?
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me. And thanks for the huge build-up. I'm sure that is now going to be a total anticlimax to what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, thanks for bigging me up so much.
Well, there's a lot here that I actually haven't, that I'm still going to dig into. Okay, yeah, cool.
But in terms of racing, and I've been an armchair enthusiast, I think as everybody in this room is. And I always thought racing was something that was far beyond what I could do, and the cost. And as we were talking before the show, when you're on the outside looking in, it's very difficult sometimes to work out how am I going to get into this racing game, because you don't know anybody. A lot of that's why a lot of young drivers, their fathers were drivers, so they've got contacts, they know the score, they know what ladder to go into. And it was only because I just started my business, and we had an office building, and I was sharing an office with somebody downstairs who was into racing themselves. And so we got chatting, and they were going to do Renault Clio Cup in the UK, and they had a saloon car. And they said, you can use my preparer, you can rent my car, and you can go and have a race. So that was the door that opened for me to start racing. But completely and utterly green and naive. You had to go and sit an ARDS test, drive around Silverstone to make sure you're safe enough, know all your flag signals, etc. And that first race, I did one test at Mallory Park, and then we went straight to this first club race. And the car, you probably never heard of this car before. It was an X1 make series car called a Rover Tomcat Turbo. Ever heard of it?
Never.
So it was a 2-door, 2-litre turbocharged car, and it'd been a very popular one make series, and they'd put it together with another X1 make series called the Volkswagen Venter VR6 Championship, which is the Jetta in South Africa. And May 2000, I was there on the grid, my first ever motor race. And I remember, like it was yesterday, sitting in the car, thinking to myself, I'm now on the inside looking out, not on the outside looking in. And we did that race. I think I finished 9th. Everyone, when they does these podcasts, they always give 1 or 2 places better than they did. But I've checked. I was 9th. I think there's only 13 of us. However, I was a second off the fastest time. And I remember driving home, and on the passenger seat, I had the results. And I'm staring at this thing, looking at all these different lap times, and thinking, that's right. And I thought to myself, I'm so happy. If I die tonight on the motorway, I'll die happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it was such a breakthrough for me to have achieved a motor race, to be in a car and to put that race suit on and the helmet and the boots and the gloves. It was just amazing. And it opened this Pandora's box. And as I said, I had agreed with my then wife that I'd do 6 races to get out my system.
Only 6, eh?
Only 6. And here I am, 26 years later, having completed over 350 races, and suddenly realise I'm actually quite a veteran, because the time has just marched on so quickly.
We chatted about this earlier on, experience. Based on just the amount of races that you've done, you've seen a lot of things happen.
Yeah, but now what happens, as you get older, your frontal lobe gets smaller or bigger. Bigger, right? So, I mean, and I can relate to that because I also started a couple of years ago, but also being older. As time marched on, my frontal lobe just became bigger and bigger, and then I see these youngsters, taking the car to the absolute limit. Where I look where they brake, and they brake exactly on the same spot every time. I just don't have the nerve for that anymore. But yeah, so as you get older, you're getting more experience, but frontal lobe's also growing. So it's really getting into that groove with a lot of practice. And
I race with a lot of young people. I mean, I used to say I'm racing with people who are younger than my children. Now I'm racing with people older than me, my grandchildren. Such as, and there's one young lad in the Ultimate Cup Series you do in Europe. Young French kid, 18 years old, and he is so quick. And you look, everything on the lap, we were recently racing in Portugal at Portimão, and if you looked at our onboard laps, they're identical, apart from one thing, because the braking points, the line, everything we do looks identical. The only difference is about 1.8 seconds. He's faster than me. Is he faster in a braking zone? No. The apex, the exit, it's a fraction of a tenth in every part of that corner times 16 corners.
Exit speed.
Speed, yeah.
Entry, mid, and exit.
The nuance.
Fraction. And that is what you lose. So if you put me into a sprint race now, I doubt I'd be particularly competitive. Put me in an endurance race, because I can, with my experience, I can replicate lap after lap after lap. Yeah, I know how to look after tyres. I know how to drive on a full tank. I know how to drive on an empty tank. I know how to look after a car. So that's the key to it. And also the fact that I do 20 endurance races a year, so I'm never outside of the car very often. And that's why I'm doing it, because if you only let me do 6 races a year, my competitiveness wouldn't be like it is as it is now.
Yeah, that is the key. But how do you manage to do 20 endurance races a year?
That's one every 2 weeks.
Do you work? Do you run a business?
I used to have 2 businesses. So for anybody that knows my backstory, I've lived in South Africa full-time since 2010. So this is my 16th year of living in South Africa. And I moved to South Africa after coming here on vacation. If I take a further step back, when I was at college, many, many years ago, I was always a great reader. Reading's been ruined for us with the internet, hasn't it? And dreadful social media. We'll sit and scroll mindlessly rather than picking up a book. But I used to read a lot of books. And I went to college and I studied civil engineering. And I went into the library and I picked this book up. And it was called When the Lion Feeds. And do you know who the author is? Wilbur Smith.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Wilbur Smith used to live in Cape Town. Fantastically successful author, born in Rhodesia. And he wrote a lot of his books they're fiction, but based on African history, particularly Southern African history. So you're talking Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, all the way from the 1800s upwards. And he had this ability to transport me to, you could smell the earth and the rain. And I'm reading about, and the world was a lot bigger place, let me tell you, in the 80s and 90s, reading these books. And I always had this desire to come to South Africa, but because of the bad publicity South Africa received from anybody who lived in Europe, it seemed like it was a closed shop. But anyway, in 2000, I came here, and I just fell in love with it. And I kept coming back and back and back, particularly in the European winters. So I'd bring my family here for Christmas and we'd stay in Backhoven, and it was wonderful. And I thought to myself, I've really got to work a way of being here more often. I looked at buying a business here, and then I decided to start a business doing what I did in the UK, because I had quite a reasonably large business in the United Kingdom, making these electric beds and riser chairs and mobility scooters and walk-in bathrooms, etc. So I started it. I didn't know anybody in South Africa, not a soul. I found a recruitment agency. I found one guy, recruited him, and we kicked the thing off, bought a container over of mechanisms and motors, found us a contractor that built the bed surrounds, and we started and gradually built this thing up. So we got a very good business, worked with some wonderful people, and I was doing a lot of commuting back and forth, my UK business, etc. But in the UK, I had a business partner, and 4 years ago now, he said, "Look, I need to retire. Let's see if we can sell it." And I was like, "No way can you sell this sort of business. It's a direct consumer business called a direct sell business. You know, we advertise on television, generate inquiries, take a bed to show somebody. You think, oh no, it's never got a value." Well, it had a very big value, actually. We sold it to a venture capital company. And it was a very, very good deal for everybody concerned.
And when was that?
That was 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
So although I'd got two incomes, effectively, one from the UK business, one from the South African business, which allowed me to race, now I've got more time and I've got more resources to actually do what I'm doing. And that's why I'm packing in 20 races a year, because my competitiveness will have to fall off a cliff at some stage. But I made this decision, okay, let's do as much racing as I can. So Asian Le Mans is 6 races. ELMS is 6 races. Ultimate Cup is 6 races. So you're 18.
And SAS, of course.
And then you've got SAS on top of that. So I do as many SAS races as I can. And your Juno was a wonderful racing car, still is a wonderful racing car, and I've got very happy memories of winning in that car, particularly in the 9-hour in 2015 here at Kyalami in Cape Town.
I remember that race, actually. But that's, I've rebuilt that car, as you know, because it really, it was, by the time I took it over, it was quite tired. The Byron Mitchell and his dad, Gordon Mitchell, Elroy Weiss, I could never really do an entire endurance series, and I really wanted to do the whole thing instead of just one. I mean, the first endurance race I did was with Andre Besaidenout in 2014, 6-hour at Velcom.
To quote you, Peter, you said Andre's cost you a lot of money up until this point. Eh?
Yeah, he got me into racing, and the only thing that's annoying about that has cost me a lot of money.
Thank you, Andre. Shout out 100%. No?
Because I got into racing and just quickly. I was also always at the fence at every race meeting, looking over the fence, looking at this amazing racing. And it's like with flying, you know, people, aviation enthusiasts, you know, I'd love to be a pilot one day, but how do you get into it? You know, I don't even know where to go. Where's the school? How do you start? You got to talk. Same with racing.
Yeah,
you know, we didn't know how to get into it. And so I used to belong to the Porsche Club, and we used to do these little gymkhanas, and we were doing one at Grabo. There's some old factory abandoned military site there where we did this little hill climb, and the Porsche went through the Porsche Club. And on this day, which is about 2011, I think, or 2012, there were 60 cars on this event, but there was one unknown car. It was a 993 Cup car, I think it was, but it wasn't roadworthy. He pitched there with this thing, semi-slick tires. I mean, they were slick tires with a little pin line grooved in the bit. Yeah, and I walked around this car, and I still said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, if this guy can drive this car, I'm in trouble. Because I used to always win these events. I had a 997 turbo manual. And I used to give the guys with the 997 GT3 cars. And so I used to just give them a go, you know, typical street racer. Anyway, needless to say, you know, I always parked at the back because I wanted the guys to put a little bit of rubber down, get a best grip and see what time I really need to beat. And then I parked at the back as usual, and guys were putting up the times, and eventually it was my chance to go, and I went to the back, and I said, this guy's moved this car behind me. And I thought, it's ook 'n boer met 'n plan. And so anyway, I did the run, and I went to the top of the board. Then he went and knocked me off, like literally unconscious off the top of that board. I thought, holy shit, how did he do that? You know, and then we did the little gymkhana, and exactly the same happened. Anyway, we had the dinner that night. Nobody knew who this guy was. He was a Johannesburg Porsche Club member, and he'd come down, and he asked the Porsche Club if he could join in the day. And anyway, he came to our table, and he said, do you mind if I join your table? Come, I need to know a little bit more about you anyway. And anyway, long story short, he said, you should be on a racetrack. I said, I'd love to, but I have no idea how to get into it. And he said, I've got a few race cars in Johannesburg. Come up to Joburg, I'll teach you. I said, I don't have a race car. No, you can use one of mine. And just get there on a Wednesday. They got practice there from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock every Wednesday, I think it is. And he said, just come up on any Wednesday, many times you like, and I'll teach you. And anyway, the first time I went up, so I flew up there, like, got into this old RSR Porsche classic car, and 2 seats with him. And we went around the tracks. The first time I've been in a car with slicks. Holy shit. I thought we were going to crash on every corner. Jeez, you know, you just don't know the grip that these slicks have. And we did a couple of those, and then he, sent me out on my own, and we did a couple of. I did this for about 6 months, about twice a month. Went up there, it was amazing for me. And then at the end of the year, he said, "I've entered you into the David Piper, that international classic race in the end of January." I said, "Andre, no ways. I've been training on my own here around this little track. Now you've entered me into a race where I'm going to be surrounded by guys. No, I'm not doing it."
So basically it was like your first solo flight.
Exactly, yeah. He said, "You're in." I said, I'm not going to do it." Came beginning of January, he said, "Pete, don't forget to pitch end of January for this race." I said, "Yeah, Andre, I can do this, you know." And anyway, we did. So I did this race. And the most bizarre thing is it started raining in the middle of the race. And I shat myself. I just slowed right down, and I was basically like on an ice rink. But all these other guys were pushing. And everybody in that race had it off somewhere along the line, and they just kept creeping to the top. And I won the race, my 31st race, just by driving super slow and super carefully. And I remember I was in the pits when I came in. He was in the pits standing there when I came in off the track, and he like had his arms like this, because he always used to say to me, "Are you sure you haven't raced before?" And I said, "No." And he said, "So you weren't ready? You didn't want to do the race?" And it's like getting a hole-in-one, in golf. I mean, you're hooked. And then I eventually bought that car, and that's how the whole thing started. And but yeah, it cost me a lot of money to buy one car. Then I bought a 996 Cup car, and we did this endurance race together. This was my first one, 2014. And we came second against all odds. I mean, we had terrible problems during that race. The rubber buildup in the rims. I kept saying this car was shaking apart. What? And then I'd come into the pits, and the guys were very inexperienced at the time, and they'd like walk around the car and like feel the wheel.
Feels fine.
It's all fine. And then I'd go around again. And the thing is, the vibrations used to go from one side of the car and then to the back. And so it was like moving around. Obviously, in hindsight, I don't know why. I mean, I think we took about 5 of these 5-liter cans of rubber out after the race. I mean, it shook that car apart, but we still came second. And it was quite an experience. But anyway, the moral of the story is I always wanted to do endurance racing. It's like 5-day cricket, It's really the ultimate in racing, actually. And you've got a lot of time to figure things out. And I think guys with experience and us guys that are more safer, and having flown for 30 years and being at least 2 simulator sessions a year in these simulators, that's what gave me the nice hand-eye coordination that I needed for it. And that's why I kind of took to it quite quickly, but I never got as fast as the really fast guys up front there. And then before, what I was going to say before I really interrupted myself, endurance racing. So the first time, because of my flying, I could, I was always away. I was at least 6-7 months a year out of country. I'd do a race here, do a race there. And finally, at lockdown, I called it a day with the flying. I wasn't interested in all this hibernating in hotel rooms and get fed plate of food under the door, and to do one flight from, say, Hong Kong to London, I have to go and hibernate, quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel, and then do 1 day flying, and then 2 weeks in a hotel before I can come home. So it's a month to do one flight, and I used to say, sure, I'll do the flight, but I'm charging you per day. It's, my daily rate says 30 days to do a 1 day's flying. Anyway, so I called it a day, and I thought, that's my opportunity, as time went in. So 2022, I decided, let me try the 9 hour. It was here at Kyalami. Did you race in that? In that one, yeah. And Gordon Mitchell came up to me and said, I believe you're looking for a driver. And I said, hell yes. And he said, can my son drive with you, Byron? And I said, of course. He's a brilliant driver. He's going to make me look like a superstar, man. And he said, I'm not going to pay you, you as the driver, but I'm going to maintain and run the car because my son's in that car.
Perfect.
Beautiful. And that's what happened. So we did that 9 hour. I think we came 6th or 9th. I can't actually remember exactly in class. And but it was more an experimental exercise to see whether we can actually do if this car can do it. And then 2023, I said no going away, no holidays, no flying, no nothing. I'm just going to focus on this, like what you're doing right now. And as you know, we came 5th. We came 3rd in Class A for the 2023 championship. So that for me was a mother of an achievement.
No, you had a great season, a great run. To
do my first run and that car. And then we came 5th overall that day, and I think you won that 9 hour at Kyalami. And but you you couldn't do the whole series, henceforth. Where did you come in overall?
I don't know.
I don't think you were in the...
We weren't doing all the races then.
Because
that was when I first had the Nova Proto, so that was the first proper race we did with it.
Yeah.
So if I can jump in here, let's talk about the 9 hour of Kyalami. Peter, we spoke before this and we said nothing's off the table, eh?
Yes, I definitely want to talk about that 9 hour result, the 2024 one.
So can we talk about Glovegate?
Is that what they call it? So, to explain to the listeners that don't know what happened there.
You don't mind if we go there? Okay.
I don't want to go into that thing because I think it's quite controversial actually what happened there, because I think you were very badly treated in that one. And it all goes about the international standards, the rule book, and fairness, to be honest.
And how it's interpreted.
And so what actually happened, this 9 hour event, you were leading the race when the safety car came up.
Yeah.
At the end.
There was a late safety car.
Yeah.
And there were 4 drivers, and young Charles Visser was in the car at the end. And we got these new cameras in the car, which, if you've seen the race, they're incredible. These eye cams they put in trucks.
If it wasn't for that camera, the coverage would have been pretty non-existent.
This camera looks forward, and it also looks backwards. And it's also got infrared on it. So even when it's dark in the car, you can see what the driver's doing. So under this late safety car, I think it was even on the last lap, Charles Visser had something in his eye, so he slipped his glove off to get the grit out of his eye and put his glove back on. And we'd already stood on the podium upstairs at Kyalami and collected our trophies, and it was all job done for the day, and we'd won it fair and square. And then suddenly a certain person comes bounding in, all excited, and takes all the trophies back and says, "No, there's been this appeal, and not appeal, this scenario, and we're looking at it now." And they gave us a time penalty, which took us back to second place behind into Africa. Now I know Charles Visser Senior was very upset by it, and there is still an appeal.
Is that still okay?
So we'll see what that. But effectively, whether the officials were being a little overzealous. Which is what everyone thinks, and whether that should have just been the rule book says it should have been a penalty just for the driver, not for the team.
A financial 10,000 rand penalty or something.
Absolutely, something in that order. So if I hadn't have won the European LeMans Series in 2024, I would have been more deeply upset. But from my perspective, we were the moral victor. We ran that race. We had a great strategy, and we did spray the champagne briefly.
When you guys came into the pit lane, because I was working at the event, I was on commentary that event, I'd got a lead that there was some background information happening. And I knew that there was going to be some sort of, it wasn't a protest, but the officials were looking at something. You guys came in, and I was about to go and high-five your team and congratulate you guys. Then I heard, no, it's not official yet. But you guys went through the process of celebrating the win. There was a ceremony. There was all these things. Yeah. I mean, what's going through your mind then?
No, it was another good day at the office, and we'd won. And then, of course, there was this protest, and we didn't know what it was. And then they came down and spoke to the team manager, and they laid that charge against us. Interpret it how you will. I mean, I'm quite pragmatic about these things, and as I say, there is an appeal that Charles Visser has appealed to the MSA, and it will be heard. So what happens from that? Watch this space.
But here's my point. It was, in my opinion, there was only one car with a camera in it, and that was yours, in the front runners.
Absolutely. And could that camera be a judge of fact? Again, that's for the appeal. Given that nobody else had or very few people had cameras in the car.
So, also, secondly, if you driving under a safety car, I think you had one lap to go. It was a fait accompli that the race would complete under the safety car. And a bee or an ant or something really bad flies into your eye, And you have to also think about, is it safer for me to leave that bee in my eye, blind me? I don't know whether I'll actually be able to finish this lap even with that guy, or can I just take my glove off and take that out? Which is the most safest or unsafest thing to do, first of all. So there are mitigating circumstances as far as I'm concerned there.
Well, it's something I've never heard anyone getting a penalty before, and in 26 years in motorsport. So, as I say, well...
But now also, to punish the whole team for that, they don't do that overseas. They fine the driver, if I understand that correctly.
Well, it's not uncommon for you to get out of the car after a stint and you walk into the garage and there's somebody waiting for you to check that you've got all your proper fireproof underwear on. Yeah. And to the point where you've got to roll your, race it up, they can check your socks have got the right rating on, your long johns have got the right... So they're very, very strict. When we did Asia Le Mans this last year, my other bronze driver, Chris, he got out of the car and he was inspected by one of the officials and he was wearing his watch. €500 fine.
For wearing a watch?
Mm-hmm. Not allowed jewellery.
Yeah.
But I mean, that, in other words, Charles Visser should have got a fine and you guys should have got first place. And, you know, I'm trying to think if there wasn't some form of favoritism going on there. Because the leading car happened to also be the main sponsor of the series. I don't want to get into the politics.
Let's not speculate too much.
I don't want to speculate.
Perhaps there were people... I know Zolly well, and it's not the way he would like to win. I don't think anybody, a fair-minded sportsman, Allman, would like to win a race in that way. But perhaps there were certain people who thought that would be more advantageous to their reputation with the powers that be, the people that own the series, by
ingratiating themselves, so to speak.
Indeed. But, you know...
That's speculation.
Yeah,
that's speculation. We don't know.
I think let's move on from this.
That does
still to be heard.
But I tell you what happened in the 2023 series that I raced in at Swartkops, the 4 hour before the 9 hour. A Cobra spun out in front of us, and Byron Mitchell was driving at the time. And, you know, coming out of the last turn onto the straight at Swartkops, the guy spun off the track and he carried on rolling and he rode into Byron, who was now trying to get through between the wall, which he thought he wouldn't actually go over the track. Anyway, damaged our rear suspension and one of the A-arms, I think it snapped at the bottom and came in, we're done. But there's about 50 minutes left in the race. And we were then running third in Class A, and Inter Africa was running first in their beautiful Lamborghini. And they came to the pits and said we're done, because to fix those items, it was all around the exhaust system. They couldn't get in there. It's just too hot. And it would have taken 30 minutes to fix, 30 minutes to cool down. We were done. I mean, I was so upset, and because I knew that if I had to do well in the series, I needed to finish every race. Anyway, we determined that we're done. I took my little transponder up to the office, and all the guys were sitting there, all the clock officials and all the guys that count were sitting up there, and I said, I'm handing my transponder back, we're done. Come on, Pete. Get out there. You just have to get over the line. You've done your minimum percentage of laps. You're running third by a long shot. Just get that car over the line. And I said, yeah, but are you saying if I just get it over the line, we'll get a trophy, we'll get third place, we'll get the points? He said, absolutely. I ran down again. And the guys dived in there. They burnt their arms. I mean, Byron Mitchell still got burn marks in his arms today from there. I mean, they put leather gloves in there, but they did an amazing thing. And the clock was turning. You know, this 5 minute
Pit's close.
Pit close was catching us. And eventually it must have been a minute before the 5-minute limit. We said, okay, we're good to go. Byron strapped up into his clothing, got out of the car, and we made it out there by 15 seconds. But in that last minute, Africa came in with their Lamborghini. They had fuel pump problems. And so we got out. They were still parked there. We got out 15 seconds before the bell went. And then the 5-minute limit came up. The board on the track went dark. And another 20 seconds went on, and they went out. And they also spluttered around the track. We went higgly-piggly, but they won that event. So, of course, there was a protest. How did he manage to get beyond the 5-minute bell there? So the same official that made the decision at your 9-hour said that, look, there was a discrepancy between the TV clock and the clock on the track, and they're going to spend 140,000 Rand to make sure the clock at Kyalami works properly and that they're properly synced. And because there were a few of us that protested, because everybody would have moved up one position had they been disqualified or not made it out. We weren't trying to be nasty or anything like that, but it affected everybody. And he just said, look, it's not going to be further investigated. That's the problem. There was a problem with the clocks, and that's just the end of the story. Okay. So exactly on the 9-hour, they had exactly the same problem, if you remember.
I remember it well.
They got stuck in the pits. There was a glove or something that was left in the back that caught fire and it burnt some of the wires, but they really, to fix it, they had to get in underneath the car. And we were out, we had a flat tire, and I kept Byron out. I said, don't come in now because we may not make it out again. Thankfully, he didn't come in because we'd broken quite a few components with this tire going on. And if we'd come in, we wouldn't have got out again, purely on the basis that there was too much damage. So he stayed out and then into Africa, with their Lamborghini, got their car finally fixed. Stuart White dived into his gear. And they didn't make it by a second.
Red light was on.
Second. He came out there, and as he was heading for that gate, and all the same characters were standing around there, and they could not do it this time.
The rules are the rules. The rules are the rules. To be fair to the officials, the rules are the rules. And I've always said that Charles technically wasn't allowed to take his glove off. That was the rule. Just like the car's not supposed to
mitigating
leave.
circumstances.
Of course.
Being the only camera out there.
But that's what the Court of Inquiry is about, isn't it?
But your story about Swartkops, that's a classic endurance racing story. It's never over until it's over.
Isn't it?
And so you just got to get in there. I mean, we've driven some of the cars in the past, nursing them, trying to get them to...
The walking wounded, as they say.
Absolutely. You've got one problem, then a second problem, the third problem, and you're still trying to do a reasonable lap time. And that race in 2023 at 9-hour, if you remember, we had that massive thunderstorm came over. And that was a very good example of how I approach my endurance racing and how Stradale and Into Africa approach theirs. Because all these young lighties, they put in the car. Now, my car did a race at Port Elizabeth a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And they'd had some issues in the race with contact, etc.
Yeah.
And I said, it's very unfortunate. And Michael Jensen said to me, yes, you know why? Because the headmaster wasn't there. I went, who's he? He went, it's you. Because you dictate to these youngsters exactly how you should be driving.
With that said, let me go to a quote on one of your associates here. He's a very pleasant human being. And I quote, he's a very pleasant human being being compared to many that I've known, met or worked with in this space. Then it goes on to say, Nick wants to do things properly. He wants to try and create an overseas vibe. Talk to us about that.
Well, it's not so much the overseas vibe, it's about how to race a car for a long period of time without risking it. So that race, we had agreed that we were going to keep off the curbs at Kyalami. You don't risk the car. You know, you've got so much traffic in these races. The Cobras, the backdraft Cobras, for example. A lot of the drivers in the backdraft Cobras are very good. Some are less experienced. So you cannot trust what they might do.
Yeah.
So you lunge them into a braking zone and they turn in. And you have contact. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's not their fault because they're using 100% of their mental focus to drive the car forward. They're not seeing what's behind them. So you keep out of trouble. You keep off the curbs. You don't, because hitting the curbs damages the drive shafts, etc. So we watched the Audi of Stradale, the R8 GT3, and the Lamborghini of Into Africa, and they were more off the track than on it. They were smashing over these curbs, you know, sprint race stuff. I'm like, these cars are so strong. How are they going to continue for 9 hours doing that? I do not know. Well,
They didn't.
So they didn't, because the Stradale broke a drive shaft, had to box, they were out of it, and the Inter Africa car had numerous issues which culminated in them not finishing. But another example, I mean, Stuart White, fantastic talent behind the wheel. I mean, we went from 2 laps in the lead to 1 lap behind during that thunderstorm. Because poor Michael Jensen was in the car, and the windscreen wiper and got stuck between the screen and the bodywork, so he had.
Whoa!
And it was streaming through the. I mean, there were people going off everywhere. I mean, in Europe, they'd have red flagged the whole thing, but no,
not in Africa.
Oh, just keep on going. Nobody's written the car off yet. What are you worried about? And so. But we needed to survive. We needed to keep on the track. We lost all that time, but then obviously we get it back through our strategy. But yeah, we had our own race, that how we run it, how you look after the car, how you don't risk the car, and a lot of the results are about that discipline remaining in place.
Professionalism, that was the other word mentioned.
Yeah, well, firstly, you prepare the car correctly. You know what we have in South Africa. It's a problem. We are 10,000 kilometres from Europe. So when we race in ELMS or Ultimate Cup, there's a truck full of spares. So if you damage the car or something breaks, you go to the manufacturer's spare truck and bish bosh bash back, put on the car. We haven't got that luxury here in South Africa, and I think there's also a mindset that I buy this shiny racing car, and now I'm going to race it, and I'll service it every year like you would your road car. It isn't like that. People do not life the parts, and we have a strict lifing schedule on the car. Nice. So the drive shaft does 10,000 kilometres. At 10,000 kilometres, you take it off and put a new one on.
It's like a plane.
Yeah.
From your aviation background, I'm sure, yeah.
You cannot guarantee your reliability if you're not lifing everything on the car. And we see it, don't we? People turn up at the track and they're preparing the car at the track for the race, rather than what we've done, which is the car is stripped, the gearbox comes out, everything is checked, everything is put under a microscope. Nothing's cracked, everything's working. What do we need to change? What needs to be to life? That's the only way. Because you think from here, we're going 1,600 kilometres up to Kyalami for a race. Why wouldn't you? All that cost and all that time to risk the reliability. That comes at a cost, however. But that's
I was about to say that.
But that is the cost of racing. If you want to be successful, that's part of what you have to do.
And I mean, that's the problem here in South Africa. I mean, for the general South African, racing is too expensive to do it properly.
Yeah.
But
that's really the only way to do it, because otherwise, my friends and I were saying, we don't go to the track to fix our cars, we go to the track to race our cars.
Absolutely.
But you often see people spending the entire weekend working on a car to complete 1 or 2 laps, and that costs more at the end of the day.
And surely that must ruin one's enjoyment of the whole thing.
It does, absolutely. And another point is that the standard of racing engineering across the board in South Africa is not that great. And I speak from experience. There's a couple of good guys in this industry, but they're all on different rooms, under different roofs. If anyone could get them all together under one roof, you'd get an amazing end result. So
that is, and I'm going to throw this to you, Nick, because that's basically what you've tried to do with your team. Is that not so? With getting Rico Bolo Racing, you've got RDSA involved, you've got CD Sport, etc., all under one roof, all the resources under one roof, and you've got to build the team around the car and the drivers, isn't it?
I think that the biggest challenge was to get this mindset changed of somebody accepting that there is another way of doing it, not the way they'd always done it. So listen to what these people are telling you. So we brought Jean-Noël Legal, who is the sporting director of CD Sport, who are a team I've worked with a lot in the past. Come and run the team for us and let everyone see what you do, how you do it. At the last race, the last 9 hours, we also brought a number one mechanic over from France because he's really good in the gearbox. Because a good race mechanic, they're not just competent, they're super fast.
Is that the blonde guy with the spiky hair? Yeah,
Yes.
Interesting character, but very good at what he does.
Yeah, Thibaut. And so he was there just in case we'd got any issues with the gearbox, because he could have had that out and stripped it before some other people could even.
And you guys did have a clutch issue at one stage, didn't you?
Yeah, we did change the clutch. So that mindset of somebody going, yes, I see how it's done now. Yeah. And I brought Rico Barlow he's done a couple of races in Europe and just worked as a mechanic. And he said, I'm absolutely astonished. He said, nobody talks. He said, they all know what they've got to do. They've all got their own response in the car. I said, that is what I've been telling you. Rather than you trying to do everything yourself or everyone's watching on, train people to do what they have to do.
I saw something while watching the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. The one mechanic handed the other mechanic the front of the duct tape. All he did without words, grabbed the front of the duct tape, 2 other mechanics applied the duct tape along the length of the front of the car, and then the guy with the duct tape, pulled it to the other side of the car. It was a seamless motion of something simple, but if there was any confusion in that moment, you're losing seconds, and those seconds count for wins, don't they?
Yeah, and they'd have practiced that. They all know what they've got to do. So, yeah, that is one of the things that we've worked a lot on, and so simple things really. So the tyre management. So we've got 2 guys who all their job is to manage the tyres. So making sure the new set's in the tyre blankets, the old set is if you need to demount the tyres, but the tyres are always ready, and that's all they have to do. And then obviously they do the tyre change as well, but they don't worry about anything else. And anyone else working at that doesn't worry about the tyres. Yeah. It's their particular task. And the same person who belts you in, the person who changes the transponder. And it's trying to get, it's basically a tick sheet of this is what you need to do. We practice it, and we have, obviously had some degrees of success doing it, but it's taken a while to get us to the point where we need to be. And also having a race engineer.
Yeah.
In South Africa, people will be driving around the problem. Yeah, it always understeers. Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to dial that understeer out? Yeah, but these cars always understeer. No, but you can make it better.
Yeah, I've had that argument with my friends, man. Just drive the car as it is. No, but it's not right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And they get used to the way they drive that. And they're, the front tyres are finished and they're trying to drive this thing. Good race engineer, someone like Claudio, who has got a lovely manner about it. It's always calm.
Always calm.
But you get out the car, you go and have a debrief, you write down a track map, what the car's doing. Entry, mid, exit. And if you want to be a professional racing driver, you don't have to be an engineer, but you need to be able to give such accurate feedback to the engineer. And we're working with a new professional silver driver in Europe. And he's been very successful, but his feedback leaves a lot to be desired, because if he wants to go on with his career, he's got to be able to, rather than what he did at the beginning of the season, was just to get down and say the car's rubbish, and right, well, what is the car doing? And he was unable to explain what the car's doing, but he wanted to be at the head of the field. And try and explain to him, the only way we're going to get this car fast is of the feedback you give the engineer. The engineer can't make it quick if he doesn't know what he's got to change.
Exactly.
And when I'm saying it's understeering and you're saying it's oversteering, we're not going to get very far, are we? But that's what you do. It's the relationship with the engineer is incredibly important to get the car where you want it to be. And with the Nova Proto, it often can feel good, but it's not particularly quick. And you think, right, what? You go to that next level. What actually is it? And I'm having the benefit of working with Michael Stephen this year.
19-time South African champion.
You know, he's got to be one of the best in the world, in my opinion. I've watched him race many times, but I've watched him in the pits, talking to the engineers, and him getting his hands dirty as well, and getting in there and doing fine-tuning and reading data. I don't know anybody is as good as that guy.
Because he's versatile in that sense.
I've never worked with anyone like him, honestly.
Unbelievable.
I've always wanted to work with him. And
yeah, how did that relationship come about?
well, I've known of him for some time, but he's such a humble guy.
Isn't he?
He wouldn't come and try and force himself on you and saying, I'm a great driver, take me. And I invited him to do a race with us, and we actually didn't end up racing because we had a problem with the car. And I said, this isn't over. We'll race again some other time. But I need, obviously, it's a commercial situation. I need budget from people. And then he phones me end of last year. Right, I want to come and race with you in Europe. What do I need to do? So I told him, well, this is the budget you need to bring. Right. He said, I'm going to do it. I said, great. But I hear a lot of people say that, because it's very difficult to. He has a job which pays him a salary. It's very difficult to race when you're like that.
Yeah.
You can race at a very basic level, but fair play to the bloke. He went out there and he raised proper sponsorship from the people he knew, and he came to Europe. We did our first race at Paul Ricard. And unfortunately, we had a suspension breakage, retired the car. And I think it was so new, so competitive, he didn't really find his feet. Come the next race, he'd had a long think about it, and we were at Mugello. Suddenly, the way he's working with the engineer, you can just see this. I've never seen anybody take pictures of the tyres and study them. Right, look, that edge isn't being worked. Let's put a bit more camber. Can we do anything with the toe? Let's change this. Let's change that. And the feel he's got. So the last race he did at Portimão, out of the hairpin in turn 5, he was saying, "Yeah, we just got a slight bit of oversteer. What do you think?" And I'm.
I didn't feel that. Yeah.
But then we look at the onboard, and I'm doing a little correction. I don't feel that correction myself. He said, "You see the oversteer you're getting?" I'm like, "Wow, you're feeling that. I haven't got the ability to feel that because it's quite nuanced." The way he's gone such a deep dive into the set of the car, and we came fourth at Mugello. And then we were second in Portimão. But the car was the easiest car we've ever driven. I wasn't driving any different, no different technique, no harder, but it was just quicker because of everything that Michael Stephen had done. And our engineer, Pierre, this is amazing. He said, I don't even need to come to work. This guy's doing all the work for me. The feedback he's giving is amazing. And now he's got used to the car. He's quick as well. So it's an incredible pleasure. And then the reports he gives after the race to the team. And again, not you're doing it wrong. Always incredibly nice and giving that feedback. They absolutely love him. The season's going really well, and he's having such a great time. And it's super enjoyable. We're trying to win the championship this year. We've got the opportunity to
the overseas one.
Yeah, the Ultimate Cup Series.
So speaking of championships, I know you've won a championship. I'm close to my heart, Formula Supercar. That's your local checkbox.
Two of those.
Okay. So I've got some catching up to do.
2013 and 2014.
Then there are 3 SAES championships.
Yep.
Then there is...
that was 2015, 2017, 2018.
So that's a sequence of successful years. Then there comes the European stuff. ELMS, European LeMans Championships. The Asia LeMans, you guys had 3
runners-up.
Runners-up.
Well, vice champion, like to call it. That's
that's what you mentioned earlier.
Yes, vice champion. So it's better than sounding like you're the first loser.
So let's start with the sad stuff first. Talk us through what's one of the without going too dark, what's one of the most disappointing races you've had, and then let's go straight after that to what was the highest moment in motorsport.
Because for some reason I'm fixated on my advancing years, in 2018, we won the championship again in SAS in the Ligier, the GS53, the CN car. And I said to Sharon, my wife, I said, I'm just going to do one last big series, the last hurrah.
Jinxed it.
Yeah, if she watches this, she'll be rolling her eyes. Yeah, we've heard that before. And
Yeah.
I did Age Le Mans, which was 4 races. Now they do these double headers. So it was a race in China, Buriram in Thailand, and then Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So that was my first time driving an LMP3 car, and it was a massive step up because the car is so different to the CN car. I mean, your Juno probably weighs about 600 kilograms.
675,
Yeah, these things weigh a ton.
Yeah, they're just under 950. Your current car is 950.
Yeah, the current evolution of it.
Yeah.
This year's car is a ton. So you feel the weight in the thing. It's where the CN car, the Ligier GS53, it's more like a big go-kart. Chuck it in and get it back from various angles. You got to snap in a P3. You're heading for the scenery. It goes one way and then it snaps the other and you're gone. So it was a lot to learn. And as we were talking earlier, you go from being, the big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a big pond, because it was like you just started racing. It was, and the G's you were pulling in these cars, the amount of grip around the China in Shanghai. I remember my neck was so sore.
That's you sort of think about it, I've got quite a thick neck.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
I'm quite fit, and I've never felt it in one of these cars, but I've always thought you actually really do have to make that neck. I don't know, watch how the Formula One drivers train,
Oh, your young driver, one of your young drivers, Jono, was on the podcast, and he mentioned the G's were, it was a lot for him to absorb.
The Nova Proto has got more downforce than a current P2 car.
Is that so?
It's very fast in the corners. So we did. So we go to China. So it's a big adventure. Sorry, I missed one out. We went to Fuji in Japan, which was an
beautiful,
incredible venue. But it was snowing on the grid at the time of year we did it.
And Mount Fuji was in the background with snow on the peaks, everything.
You'll see a picture of my car with Mount Fuji in the background. It was incredible. And Japan, we digress. What a place. The people are unbelievable. They are the politest, nicest people ever. The bathrooms at the track, you could have eaten your dinner off the floor of them. Everything was immaculate. As I drove to the hotel, they'd bow as you entered. I mean, it was just incredible. But that Chinese race, it was horribly difficult for me. We had a reasonable finish, I think. And then we had the terrible weather conditions in Japan. Then we went to Buriram in the January. And northern Thailand, very hot, very humid, and we put our race suits and our underwear in a freezer to put it on at the last minute to try and keep cool. It was. I mean, we know Sepang is hot, but Buriram was another step up, and I couldn't really get myself into the groove in the circuit. It's a very tricky circuit to learn, and they said this one corner, fast right-hander, don't ride the curb there because you'll hit the plank under the car, the area of the plank they put under the car to stop the ride out going too low. And if you hit the plank on that curb, you've got a toboggan. One of the wheels will be in the air and it'll fire you into the inside wall. And I was on a good lap and I went too wide and I kept my foot in. And the next thing, I'm in the wall. And I had 2 impacts. I had a 20G impact in the first impact and an 18G impact in the second impact. So it went in one way and then the other way. The scrutineers, when they saw the data, cut the seatbelts out of the car and said, right, they're finished.
Yeah.
You need new belts.
Is that a factor?
Yeah.
No expiry dates,
No. They cut the belts out because that's been in the big impact. And the team rebuilt the car. But imagine I'm now got to drive that car again and not crash it. The cost of the cars are insured in those scenarios, but
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
how does insurance work over there?
There's a €25,000 excess, half a bar excess. So first 25, and there's a maximum claim, and I'd gone over the maximum claim, so it was it was a horrible accident from all respects. And we talk about racing confidence. And racing confidence takes a long time to build up and a very short time to destroy it. And I was questioning, whether I should continue at that point, because it was going to be the last thing I did. So we finished that season.
Can we just pause there for a second? When the incident happened, because 20 G's is a lot.
Yeah.
What were you thinking as the car came to a halt and the smoke was sort of coming out the car? What was going through your mind then?
I remember getting on the radio and pressing the radio button.
Getting
winded.
And I'm like, I've gone off. And it's bad. And
were you actually winded? Were you?
It was just shocked. It was
Is that
shocked.
so?
Because that sounds like a quick accident.
Oh yeah,
Just bang, bang.
it was bang bang. I mean, 1 minute you're turning in, you hit the curb, and then you just what we're doing 200 plus kilometers an hour, and you hit the inside Armco barrier, in front, in back. So yeah, it was I've been very fortunate racing for all the years I've had. I've been involved in some big incidents, particularly in one make, Renault Clio Cup. I mean, if you hadn't had to reshell your car at least once a year, you weren't trying hard enough. You had to write the thing off or get fired up by somebody else. But none of them ever hurt. Okay, that was a shocker from the size of it. But I've never actually physically hurt myself in a racing car. Touch wood.
Touch wood. Yeah.
So that was that, and I thought that okay, we enjoyed it. We had a good podium at Sepang. My young silver driver Christian Olsen, we made a good team. We really enjoyed it, and I thought, well, let's call it a day. Do a bit more in South Africa. Then the team I was racing for, Nielsen, come the new season, he rings me. Right, we got this Japanese gentleman's driver, and he wants to do Le Mans, so he's doing the whole campaign for us. But there's an issue, and he's got some work commitments. He can't get out. Would you like to take his place in ELMS? Just pay for the tyres. Like,
it's a fait accompli. I mean,
let me think about that for a moment. Yeah, all right.
but 2 seconds. Yeah,
and I've never been away from it since. Although I tried my best not to. I did those 3 races, and in ELMS it was just a new world again. And I thought to myself, well, if I can keep doing this, and the enjoyment when you go to an ELMS paddock, it's like Formula One was probably 15 years ago. You see the trucks, you see the hospitality units, you see the level, and the paddock is such a friendly place. It's not when you race one make sometimes. It's ferociously competitive, and you all up hating each other.
Yeah.
Because in endurance, you're not mano a mano against your bitterest rival. Because even if you're overtaking them, it means that they've got more worn tyres at that point or a higher fuel level. So, and you're not allowed to block. So you have to be very, very fair. But you don't have that aggravation that you would do. So we've got an immense amount of friends in the paddock in ELMS. And
it's so well articulated, because I've always wondered why certain series are so much more combative, but it's the one make thing, isn't it?
Oh, during Renault Clio Cup, when I was driving to the tracks, you find your stress level rising because you had...
You're going to battle now.
You were, and you'd got so many scores to settle with other people who want to settle scores with you. It's
like NASCAR.
It's gladiatorial in some respects.
We work with two-time... I used to race GTI Challenge, and I worked with two-time champion Dylan van Eden. And it was like going into battle, because it's ultra competitive. The cars are exactly the same. Any margin that you can get on top of someone else, you can't share the information. It's your information to have found and then not... disseminate to anybody else. And then when you're on that track, it's battle, it's wartime. And you said I think I saw you racing though. We spoke about this earlier in 2001. Brands Hatch, you were then racing. Were you racing Clios then?
No, that wasn't 2001. That would have been. There's one on YouTube, isn't there, where I get fired off and roll the car.
Oh, have we got footage of that?
Yeah. So that was a guy called Mark Hunt. No rhyming slang needed here, by the way. Yeah.
Was he there?
And in the race the previous day, we used to have a race on a Saturday afternoon with Sporty British touring cars, and another race on the Sunday between one of the touring car races. And on the Saturday race, there's a corner at Brands Hatch called Clearways, and it leads on to the main straight. And it's a very common overtaking place if you can catch somebody napping. So if they take if they don't tighten the line too much on the way in, you can just snick it up the inside. And I snuck it up the inside, and Peter move, Beautiful. Took him, finished the race, probably on the podium. The next day, I'm behind him again, and I do exactly the same manoeuvre. This time, we fold our mirrors as we come together. So not contact, but, just a little racing kiss as we go by. And he had a dose of red mist. And so we're going down the straight, and he thinks I'll get him back. So how much brake pressure he puts in, I don't know, but he tags the back of rear quarter of my car. And when you're turning in on
maneuver.
Yeah, your front wheel drive car, when it's on the apex, you could push him around with your finger because you're on the limit of grip. And he tapped the back of the car purposefully, and you'll just see me going backwards doing 100 mile an hour across the gravel trap, because when you're going that quickly, you don't the car doesn't dig into the gravel. You hear this horrible kiss, so you
bouncing,
and then boom, and I hit the Reticel foam barrier, which is in front of the Armco, and the energy was such the car just lifts itself up and then just falls down on its side, and the doors above me, I clamber out, etc. Another reshell of it. So, so that was perhaps a classic one. And there was another. Again, it's on YouTube. A Northern Irish gentleman, Stephen Colbert. I always just say he was a very balanced individual.
You racing is really famous guys. First Mark Hunt, now Stephen Colbert.
But he was a very balanced individual because he had a chip on both shoulders. And he was so frustrated because he kept finishing fourth, and he came from F3, so he thought he was the dog's nuts. And we were at Thruxton, and we're going, Thruxton's a super fast circuit.
High speed.
We're going through Church, and I'm right behind him. And he loses the rear and spins off. And he convinces himself that it was me. And he protested. We were there for hours after the race meeting finished. And I'm saying, look at my car and at the front and look at the back of his car. You find a mark on it. Because I honestly never touched him. But he then put me in the wall at Brands Hatch at the end of the season and wrote my car off. Like, there, that'll teach him. That's what it was. And in the end, I thought, I just don't need this anymore.
Yeah. I also find sometimes in endurance racing, when you've got multi-classes, that the fast guys can, because they're fast, they feel they have right of way in a sense, and that you better get out of the way. I'm coming. Do you find that? Well,
it's a very good point you make, Peter, because Eduardo de Freitas, who's the series director, he's a proper headmaster. He's a proper...
This is of the ELMS.
ELMS. He's very, very strict, and quite rightly so. Mm-hmm. So the issue we have in ELMS is you've got... there's 4 classes, but effectively 3 classes, LMP2, LMP3, and GT.
Yeah.
And as it always says, you're not racing... You're racing in your own class.
Yeah.
So if you're a GT car, don't block an LMP3 car. Or if you're an LMP3 car, don't block an LMP2 car. But I think you find that, Peter, when we're racing here against the likes of the Backdraft, some of the saloon cars, you're lapping them so often, you can become quite dismissive of them.
Yep.
Because I'm got the faster car. You slow person there, you need to get them away. But they're driving the wheels off the thing. They're driving the maximum they can. You need to have respect for those people. And we have issues, and there's penalties given out quite frequently for LMP2 drivers who will come past you and then immediately switch into the braking zone And there's lots of instances where they just sideswipe somebody, or you take the air off you, so you can't brake because you've now got this P2 who's taken all your downforce from you. So they're very strict on that, and it's easily to become dismissive, and it's that respect between the classes. And I have it in LMP3 where I'll have a bloody-minded GT driver, don't overtake me. Well, I'm going to overtake you. So all you're going to do is hold yourself up. So we often have these conversations, and what a GT will do, let's say, as a classic example at Jasper Arena, some long straights there with the chicane. So because the current GT3 cars have got ABS and traction control, and really good ABS traction control, they get to the brake zone, smash the brake pedal as they can, turn in, throttle 100%, and they get great exits. We've got much more speed in the high-speed corners than they have. But braking, and we've got a little bit more top speed. So when you're going down to the first chicane, you've probably got a 3/4 kilometre straight. So we can tow in behind them and go alongside. But they'll fight you. And so you'll end up both losing time. All they need to do is just lift off 10 metres earlier, let the P3 go through, and they're going to lose tenths. As it is, I block past them. They can't turn in. I miss the apex because we're all trying to battle through the corner. What's the point in that? But you just get these people, the ego doesn't allow them to be overtaken, even though it's a different class, nothing to do with them.
So we were talking about, and we still need to get back to your highest of highs. I want to get to that. But just on what Peter was saying, managing traffic, being the faster car, being the slower car, nighttime driving, we've been there. How do you manage that?
We do deal, the ELMS, endurance racing worldwide is currently more popular than ever due to...
It's in the current heyday right now.
Absolutely. With hypercar. A lot of young drivers are switching from single-seaters into endurance because there's an opportunity to get a pay drive in hypercar. So we're seeing a lot of younger drivers taking that route rather than sticking with the single-seater route.
But I would also like to, sorry to interject, in the single series racing that you've got, and you've got bronze drivers, silver drivers, is it just those two?
No, golds and platinum.
Gold, yeah. And as me watching that race, it's damn confusing because, if you've got this sort of permutation of drivers, you've got so many penalties. Do they call it penalties, or you got to spend more time in the pits?
No, not in ELMS. You've got driver gradings. So in both the GT3 class and in LMP3 and in LMP2 Pro-Am, you've got to have a bronze driver. So that's one of you, one of me.
Right.
Or what we do, half of the race has to be made from a bronze driver. So in a 4-hour ELMS race, the bronze has to drive for a minimum of 1 hour 50 minutes, which is effectively 2 hours because that's 1 hour per tank of fuel. So what we do is I do an hour. Well, Michael does an hour to start. I do the second hour, and then the silver driver does the 2 hours, and that will be the same across the GT class. Lots of people just have 1 bronze and 2 silvers, or 1 bronze and 1 silver. Go into the LMP2 Pro class, you can have a mix of different drivers. You'll find gold, platinum, silver drivers in that. They're not so affected by drive time. But if you were a gold driver, you can't be a gold driver in LMP.
Is the gold the highest?
Yeah, well, no, platinum's the highest.
Okay. So bronze is call it the beginner, for the one of the least.
But even just to get
beginner
to bronze
or
the
age.
slowest.
It's age.
Is it
age related?
Even if you're fast.
Yeah, so you look at Michael Stephen, he's 44 years old. He applies for his ranking, he's silver because of his vast experience and his success. So you do.
What should he be?
He should be silver.
Silver, okay.
Yeah, but what you get sometimes is what they call a shiny bronze, a bronze who really shouldn't be a bronze. And they will then upgrade them to a silver. But sometimes you're like, no, this guy isn't a bronze. His pace is silver pace. But that's that's a moot point. But yeah, you are ranked by the FIA. And once you get to 50, you'll always be downgraded. I mean, some of the pros they won't get to bronze because they're too good. They've been platinum when they're 50 years old, when they're still racing incredibly, incredibly well. So you have this mix, but it works very, very effectively because you're not. you could be 2 seconds a lap slower than your silver, but against your bronze peers, you could be the fastest. So it's not a scenario you go, oh, he's not quick enough, because you're only racing against the same level of people you're racing with. I'm not racing to be the fastest LMP3 driver. Love to do that, but hello, look at my age. It's reality. I can't be that man, but I can be the fastest bronze.
Are you a bronze driver?
Yes.
Should you be a silver had you been younger?
Are you a shiny bronze? That's the question.
No, I mean, if you looked at my stats from last season, I was about the 4th fastest bronze. Michael was the 9th fastest bronze, if you looked at the averages.
Michael Stephen?
No, Michael Jensen.
Oh, Michael Jensen.
Who happened to be racing at Le Mans recently, isn't that so? Your teammate.
He blames me for everything.
Because you were invited as well, as far as I know.
Yeah, we won an invitation. By winning LMP3 ELMS, you get an invitation to race at Le Mans in LMP2. That's the invitation, not an entry.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind that invite, though, to be honest.
I want to know the cost.
So this year, the cost of the whole car, so if the 3 of us wanted to do Le Mans, and we went to a team who owned the car and would run it for us. So, right, okay, so what do we need to bring financially for you to run the car for the 24-hour race? And it's 1.2 million euro, 24 bar.
I just swallowed. Like
Then you arrive and drive, and they supply the tires, the parts, everything.
Just don't crash it.
What happens then? What happens if I crash it?
Well, the front the front block is 65,000 euro. I think the excess is 50. The insurance excess. No, it's.
So what? And you have to pay for that?
Of course you do. Who else is going to pay for it?
We'll have to figure it out between the 3 of us.
So it's
but if you damage the car, that's your bill. It's not mine.
Yeah.
I mean, if I damage the car, it's my bill, not yours. But
also,
don't crash it.
You've paid that money in advance.
Yeah.
If you crash in the first lap, you lose it.
That's it. But that's racing.
They don't pay you back.
No, absolutely.
24 bar.
So you're...
For one race.
And you could potentially be out after 1 lap. If the car's a breakage.
So we would each have to put in 6 million.
But
6 million rand.
But you don't.
Oh.
Because one of us will be the bronze. And so now we've got to attract the best professional drivers we can. So if we attract drivers with budget, great, but they're not going to be the best. And the level that Le Mans is now, it is not a 24-hour endurance race anymore.
It's a sprint race now, yeah.
It's a 24-hour sprint race. And as Michael will attest to, I mean, the pace out there this year was unrelenting.
That was incredible.
And it was all about your lap time. You don't worry about the reliability. You're not nursing anything. You are just flat chat.
On that, do you think it's a shame that endurance racing isn't about reliability anymore? Like it isn't about brakes, nursing the car and all of those factors?
But look at Formula One. You know, you go back in time, and sometimes there were 6 finishes because of the reliability. And it's not that long ago. You're going back to the 90s, and now these cars are...
They don't break.
No, they're incredibly reliable, and that's filtered down from F1. So these cars are so fantastically engineered. But the work that goes into prepping the car, I was in the workshop of Vector Sport, who ran the RLR entry, and they basically built a new car, and they after this race they'll have stripped it and built another new car.
And that LMP2 chassis that they're running at the moment, it's basically the same for everybody.
Oh yeah, the Eureka.
The Eureka, yeah.
Now that Eureka 07 will go down in history as one of the best endurance cars ever built.
It's so good that everybody else. So what happened
what
was
what do you call it?
Eureka or Orica.
I've heard of it.
That's a team. It's a big chassis company. I've actually got some of their Nomics knickers as well. But the thing is, what they do is there were a bunch of manufacturers.
You got what? They're knickers.
Yeah, the Nomics. You know, the underwear.
Okay, just checking.
So there are multiple chassis builders, and they were all competing for the spot in Le Mans where privateers, companies would buy those chassis from them. But then that specific chassis was developed to such a point that the others couldn't compete anymore.
Actually, it's the homologation. So there were 3 manufacturers that were licensed to build LMP2 cars. So that's Dallara, Eureka, and Ligier.
Yeah.
So they all make them under the rules. It is the same in LMP3. We've got Ligier, Adès, Duquesne, and Ginetta. So you pay your money, you take your choice. But
Yeah.
and because the homologation period is at least 5 years, then you can't, once that car's on the track, you can't change it.
Yeah.
Because every nut and bolt is homologated. So if you've got a car that's 2 seconds slower than the other one, tough. You know, if the team can engineer it. So Ligier made a good car, but it's slower than the Eureka. Dallara made a good car, but it was slower than Eureka.
And not as reliable, etc., etc.
So now the LMP2 class is effectively a one-make class. It's all Eureka 07s. And it's a very, very fine car.
And it's been developed over a long period of time as well.
And they've, I mean, for a team that bought those chassis originally, I mean, it's commercially, it's worked really well for them because they've been running those cars now for 10 years. Let's say you capitalise that purchase over in a business 5 years.
Yeah.
You've had the last 5 years with your cost of your car has been written off. So it's allowed the teams to work a lot more efficiently from a commercial perspective. They're changing the car in 2027, so they've now gone out to tender for these new chassis. So Ligier, Eureka are the two that have been accepted by the ACO to build these new cars.
I think that because it's a one-make, it's not quite as exciting, though. I have to say, I prefer to see various different cars there.
This conversation is far too technical for me, and I think for a lot of listeners as well.
I know, I'm ready to go down the rabbit hole.
Get more into. I want to speak about your bringing the young guys up and bringing them into the picture, which I think is a really good thing. It's something that I've been trying a long time and sort of hoping. You know, the first time it happened was, I think it was Craig Jarvis that gave Stuart White a go in his Janetta. And found that he was like 4 seconds a lap quicker than he was in his own car.
And he set the record, didn't he?
And he set a lap record. I remember speaking to Craig and I said, gee, how did he get there? He says, Pete, I walked with him on the track and I saw where he braked. And I could never have the balls to do that. I would never be able to brake where he's braking. And the guy was just phenomenal. Now, I think recently you took Tate Bishop.
Well, before that was Jonathan Thomas. You've had Jonathan on your podcast. So
I'm going to have Stuart White on here soon as well.
He told the story. He was driving for Hart Motorsport, Steve Humble, with my very good friend Francis, who I raced with in your Juno.
Yeah.
And I thought, this lad is driving the wheels off this Pilby. So I got talking to him, and basically, you've ever thought coming to Europe? And he was absolutely, aghast. Oh no, could we do that? How do we do it? The first, I think he explained, the first time I walked in the paddock, it was wow.
He could not believe the level of professionalism.
Incredible. But now he walks in the paddock, he doesn't give it a second thought. And he's done really well. I try and mentor these people to become more successful drivers. But I've also, because I want to promote both South Africa and drivers in South Africa. So this year in Ultimate Cup, we've got Team Endurance South Africa on the side of the car and on our race suits.
I saw that, yeah.
Because I wanted to get more people
wonderful idea.
To come to it. So I was at Kyalami with the Extreme Festival, and I was with Tate Bishop's dad, Tim, and he won the first race, he'd come and sat in the car and said how much he wanted to do endurance racing, and we were chit-chatting, and we talked to a lot of people. And I said to his dad, if he wins the second race, you should really bring him to Europe. And he was like, anyway, he ran the second race. And I said, what are you going to do now? He said, I think I'll have to bring him to Europe. He came for that first race, but he wasn't driving in my car. He was driving with Michael Jensen. And they finished this. In the second race at Mugello, Michael had an unfortunate off. I mean, Mugello's a fast circuit, and he got in the dirty air of a car early on in the race, and the car just stepped out over the curb and just put him off, and he damaged the car and couldn't continue. But him and this other lad hadn't driven, and Michael Jensen, being such an absolute gentleman, said, I can't do the next race because I've got to focus on Le Mans, but I'll pay for you to do it.
Wow, for Tate?
Yeah.
Wow.
What a break.
So I said, well, you come with me, because he was getting disenchanted at this point, because, you know, they're young, all they want to do is drive. I said, you come with Michael and myself, and we'll work together. And we had a really good race, and I'd say we finished second, and he drove incredibly well, because they've got the raw pace, but it's all the nuances of how you do a long stint, because it's like, I don't know if I can do an hour in the car. Of course you can. But because when you're in the car, first of all, we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
We're gripping the steering wheel.
Yeah. White knuckling it.
We're sat up in the seat, and it's so stressful. You know, you just got to learn to let the car do the work. And let it steer
Soft hands.
Absolutely. And manage yourself. So, for example, in an endurance race, every lap, coming down the straight, I'll always take my hands off the steering wheel. You'll see me do this. I take some really deep breaths, because you don't breathe enough. So oxygen, you need to get into your brain. So some really big, deep breaths.
Forget to breathe.
Yeah, so you always have some. So every lap, loosen the hands, big deep breaths, drink of water from the onboard system, and carry on like that. And it's teaching people. It sounds dead simple, doesn't it? But
The elusive obvious, though.
yes, and the way your radio communication is with the team. You know, you don't want to have a big radio conversation with them. It's all, they'll give you the information, you say copy, and not trying to explain what's happening at any one time, and learning all about that. And obviously the pit stops, doing pit stop practice, everyone thinks, oh no, I can do it quickly. No, we practice it. Nobody wants to practice pit stops, because you've got to put your race suit on, you've got to put your helmet on, you've got to leap in and out of the car in hot weather.
But you have to practice every element of motorsport,
But that's the discipline of it. And then getting out of the car, first person you talk to is your engineer. How's the car? How's the balance? Then sitting in the truck in the office, writing everything down about the car, going through debriefs. And there's a lot of work you do outside of the car in an attempt to make the car quicker.
Yeah, that's and it's vitally important, and that's what's lacking in South Africa, I find it. I mean, I get out of a car here when I'm racing with the local guys, and I'm actually looking for somebody to talk to, you know, and you know, I need to talk to you about something. Oh, well, we get to that later, you know. And I remember once when they just rebuilt with the previous guys, they rebuilt the Juno. The Gordons had to rebuild it again. But I got into the car and I went around the track, you know, the first time practicing. And I came out and I said, this car is so out of kilter, and the setup it's crazy. The car's going all over the place. And his advice to me was, get used to driving the car as it is, and then we'll look at the setup at a later stage. Drive it as it is. That was my race engineer's advice.
That's the South African mentality.
And I literally said, what are you telling me now?
Because the inference is, because if you can't drive like that, you're no driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember when I first drove a sports prototype, so I'd come out of saloon cars and went into sports prototypes.
Yeah.
And I was driving a Juno SS3, the 2-litre one, the CN, and there was a races for it in the UK, and I did some racing in Europe.
Right.
And I raced this car, Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and I was being lapped by these Ligiers, CN Ligiers. And I'm thinking, I don't think I'm cut out for this. Perhaps I'll go back to saloon cars, because these guys are so quick. So I went to the best team, a guy called Bryce Wilson, a Scottish guy, ex-driver himself, and said, I don't know if I can do this. I said, I'd like to come and test the Ligier, and perhaps you could give me some advice. He said, with pleasure, come to Snetterton, and we'll have a day's testing. Great. So I turned up at Snetterton. The old Snetterton was effectively the first corner at Riches is a very fast corner. It's a proper aero corner. And then towards the end of the lap, you come down to a chicane. You've got a corner called the Bomb Hole, which is an old bomb hole from the war, because it's an old airfield. And then you've got Coram, which is a very, very fast right-hand corner. So again, the car, I go out, I go up to Riches in 6th gear, down to 4th, turn in, then get to the bomb hole, big break in, round Coram, do the first session, come in, right, so we're looking at this. He said, so what we've got to work on is this, and it's 6th gear in turn 1, not 4th. I'm like, pardon? 6th.
That seems like a terrible idea.
I said, I don't think I can do that. He said, well, why can't you do it? I said, because I don't think the car can do it. He said, Nick, I'm going to give you the car that I said, it's not an exercise in bravery. If the car feels like it's going to kill you, how can I ask you to commit? I'm like, oh, thank God somebody said that to me. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Because we worked on that during the day, and at the end of the day, he'd gone down to the bomb holes on the radio, and he watched me go through. Said, next time, Nick, you're flat. Your line's perfect. Keep it flat, because in an aero car, as you know, Peter, the faster you go, the more grip becomes available. And there's this tipping point on these cars where at a certain speed, it's hairy, but you can go 15k an hour quicker. You get that extra downforce, and suddenly it's sticking. So the last lap I did, so coming up to turn 1, a lift in 6 and through. Like, that worked. Come to the bomb hole. Don't brake, don't lift, don't lift, don't lift. 4th gear, in. The thing just sucks itself to the ground, and I'm flat all over the quorum. I mean, it knocked from the start to the end of the day, something like 4 seconds off my lap time. Now I understand it. Now I know what I've got to do. But that was coaching.
Yeah.
So and since it's become much more professional, we have on our team a physio, and we have a driver coach, and we have a data engineer. All those people are there to help the driver.
Yeah.
And you couldn't be competitive without them. You could try, but you need that all that assistance. And some of the driver coaches we work with, the ex-drivers, current drivers, they're amazing. Such nice guys, and they can really give you the pointers. No matter how good you are, there's always something you can learn. Every day's a school day, they say, particularly in motorsport. So you'll sit there with the driver coach, with the data engineer, and you'll go over and over and over that until you can. It's all about improving your lap time.
But don't you find there's a big shortage of that here?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I for a long time I asked guys, how do you take that corner? Well, you just take it.
It's flat. It's flat.
Yeah, but I'm battling with this. Nobody would want to give me advice. I've had to learn this damn shit on my own.
It's difficult because a lot of the advice isn't necessarily shared amongst the competitors. But
it's still very competitive.
I've been lucky to work with Claudio for the last 3 years, 2 championships later, and you work with Claudio as well. I always...
He's one guy, on this whole airfield, so to speak. I think,
I love living in South Africa, and I love South Africans, but let me tell you something about South African male. There's male pride. And then there's the gold standard, South African male pride, because they don't want to be told anything. And it's the old school. You can't tell me how to drive. Yeah. I can drive a road car really fast.
Still too autocratic.
But it's like the difference between snow skiing and water skiing, they both involve skis, but the technique is completely different. Driving a road car fast and driving a racing car fast is completely different. So people think that they are driving their road car. Oh, I'm a great driver. No, but it's the technique is on a different planet. The brake pressure, for example. You try and brake like you brake in a road car, you'll never stop. In an LMP3, the brake pressure you apply, you can hit that brake pedal as hard as you physically can, and you can't lock the front brakes. The brake pressure you need is immense. It's like 80 bar of pressure through that brake pedal, and you go on hard, and you're just lifting it off. As the air's coming off the nose, you're losing downforce. So it's that braking triangle you see when you have that first hit and the bleed off. It's key. And
Did you do that brake machine at iZone?
No, I've seen it, but I've never actually been on it because my
that taught me a whole new thing.
These all the youngsters now left foot brake. Because they've never been used to having a H-pattern gearbox like we used to when we were racing. So I right foot brake, and all my feels on my right foot.
Still?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't right foot brake.
So you right foot brake?
Yeah.
Still today?
And Michael Jensen, we need to talk about Michael Jensen, by the way, before we finish this. My good friend Michael Jensen, he converted to left foot braking in the P2 because that's what he was told he needed to do. So at his Le Mans race, he was racing with this professional called Patrick Pillet, who's a Porsche contracted driver here. I think he's racing at Nürburgring this weekend. And super quick. I mean, some of the best lap times in a P2 were 3 minutes 36, and that was him. So he was actually on the pace.
Yeah.
Then he admitted to Michael, I right foot brake. Michael was like, oh my God, why did you tell me that now? I spent years trying to left foot brake, and now you can still right foot brake. He said, yeah, all feels in the right foot. Same with me. And there is, when you look on the data, because my foot has to come off the throttle to go to the brake, you get that
small brake, microsecond.
But over the length of a lap. When I'm doing warming the tyres up, because we don't have tyre warmers in ELMS, or in if you're doing any start of a race, I'll use my left foot then, or in a safety car, because you're trying to keep the brakes hot, which keeps the rim hot, which keeps the tyre hot. Yeah. So you'll do this paddle where you throttle brake, throttle brake, throttle brake, throttle brake, and I'll use my left foot then. Yeah. But going into a braking zone, I don't think I could trust my left foot to apply the sufficient pressure and have that feel for it, and I've been at it too long. So I'm quite happy to right foot brake. Even the best guys still right foot brake, although
that's amazing.
Yeah,
left foot braking is where
there's a
now.
Thought process about the weight transfer and the time it takes you to get your right foot onto the brake.
That's what he was just saying.
Actually, good enough to be able to shift the weight in the correct way.
Yeah,
you know, when I started racing, I was left foot braking from the get go. Why? Because I snapped my Achilles in my right foot a year or two before that. And I was told I wasn't allowed to drive for at least 4 months till my right foot could, you work the throttle, etc. So, of course, 1 week after, that thing's in cast, I was driving my car down the driveway with my left foot, throttle brake. I mean, when you first start, you dive in.
Both pedals on the left.
Yeah. Eh?
Both pedals on the left.
Yeah, throttle and yeah. Because I was invited to a party, I was in pain like hell. My foot is up in the thing there, and he said, "You got to come to this party." And I said, "Mate, no, man. I'm lying. I'm in pain, man. I snapped it on a squash court in Moscow. I just arrived there,
as you do. Yeah.
And relieving a pilot there. So him and I were playing. I'm relieving him so he can go home for a month or two, and while the third game, I snapped my Achilles. And the only thing I really felt bad about was that he's going to have to stay.
How is Russian healthcare?
Interesting question.
Oh, we can fix that. We have very, very nice doctors here, and we can fix it very quickly. We have very good surgeons here. We can fix that for you. And I was just thinking of those rusty needles, and I'm on this. I went on a wheelchair out of there. In the terminal building, the amount of potholes in the terminal building on that damn wheelchair was bad enough. So, I got out of there. I just said, no, sorry, I'm coming back. But, anyway, this guy stitched up this thing. I got back to Morningside Clinic, and he did tell me, this is the worst injury you can have on the human body, is that thing, because it's got no blood in it. It's that tendon, and, there was it. A week later, feeling very sorry for myself. My foot's up, it's caged in your bed and things pulsed. And he said this is going to be painful for like 4 months or whatever it is. And I might come to the party. Anyway, I had an old SL 600 Merc, which is automatic, I was up and down my driveway there see if I can do this thing, because I said,
so not left foot brake and left foot throttle, left foot brake.
Yeah, I did both. Throttle and brake. So, and ever since then, I always braked with my left foot. And then I only started racing. So for me, it was natural.
Interesting.
But I flew a client of mine to America once. He ordered a.
But aren't you quite ambidextrous being a pilot, because you got to your rudders left and right? So therefore you've trained your left foot more in the field, where
100%.
All we're used to is operating a clutch with the left foot. So that would perhaps give you a better insight into it, or a better feel.
Because Andre always said to me, he always said, "Are you sure you haven't raced before?" And I always said, "No, I haven't. In the street, but that doesn't count." And then one day he said to me, so what do you do for a living? And I told him, and he said, that's it. You've got all that simulated training, flying, and it's all being business jets around the world. So it does help a little bit to have that hand-eye coordination.
But you look at Tate Bishop. I mean, all he does is left foot brake, and Michael Stephen left foot brakes. I right foot brake. When Michael Jensen was getting ready to do Le Mans, the workshop, we were at the workshop together, and he had a seat made, and he's had this seat made by this specialist guy's a New Zealander, and all he does is make seats. He used to work for McLaren, and they made a seat for Michael, and it took 8 hours to build this seat for him, one of these bead seats, because it needed to be absolutely perfect. Because when you left foot brake, your as you know, your legs are free. See, with myself, when I'm in the car, I put my left foot on the rest.
Yeah.
So I'm
braced.
I'm bracing, so I can push my body back. But when one of these people, they don't move their foot to the rest between corners. Yeah. They'll just hold it. So imagine your body's now completely free. So they need to have this incredible support, and so this leg isn't being dragged across with the G-force, particularly in the P2. So they need to be held in the seat, and the seat is incredibly important. And when you've got multiple drivers in the car, so even though this seat took all these hours with this absolute expert to make, then they had to adjust it when they got to Le Mans, because the other two guys weren't happy with it, and obviously Patrick was right foot braking. So then Michael had to have the seat adjusted, and he said after 30 minutes, I'd get pins and needles in my left leg. And at the end of the stint, it would go numb. And obviously, I'm left foot braking. He said, because the seat wasn't 100% right. So it is
a lot of nuances, I tell you. It's quite incredible. I want to ask you a question. The youngsters, Jonathan Thomas and Tate Bishop, when they're in the car now, are they quicker than you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
I would say, however, in the Nova Proto, there isn't such the gap between there would be so Julien Henry or last year Gaël Julien, both French lads, early 20s teenagers, they would always have 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds on me. In the Nova Proto, it just suits my driving style. So there isn't, in qualifying, yes. In race, not so much. Because I can bring my experience to bear. So you, in a overall lap time in a race situation, I'm not disgracing myself. Yeah,
and do you think that is just because an age thing, or I mean these?
As we talked about that young lad, that Augustin Bernier. If you looked at those two onboard laps, you can't tell the difference apart from there's 1.8 seconds between us, because it's just. So talk about we're talking about the braking triangle. So we hit the brake the same place. The brake pressure is the same. It's the digression of the brake. So they're judging it. So you need to be at a certain point at the apex.
Yeah.
So my speed would come off directly. Their speed would come a little bit of a curve, because they're maximizing the velocity of the car before they get to the apex speed. They've got that
they've got a feel.
A little bit extra feel.
Yep.
And where they can pick the throttle up, where we would still be, we're going to get a snap of oversteer here. So we're feeding it in, and they've just gone whoop, and it's finite. You're talking about milliseconds. And that's just reality. That's just the reaction time.
Like you said, 16
and somebody
corners.
who's, we talk about, the First World War. All these young lads going over the top and getting slaughtered because your brain hasn't developed to the point where you can understand danger, the risk to yourself.
Yeah, the frontal lobes.
The thing you were talking about earlier. Yeah. So they'll just drive without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, we've got a built-in safety limits.
Yeah,
so they don't. And
just based on the young drivers, I know you've been doing this with Tate as well. With Tate, the drivers that you've been working with. What, as an older gentleman, what do you get out of giving younger drivers opportunities like this? Because it's a wonderful thing to see, and that's one of the reasons I'm glad the SAES exists in South Africa, because it gives lots of young drivers opportunities.
Yeah, it's when I experienced Byron Mitchell, for example. I mean, from the get-go, he'd never driven a Juno before. He'd never driven something that fast actually before, except for his single-seaters, and he got in that thing, and he was immediately faster than me. But he races a lot. I don't. I had all the excuses in the world. I am not nearly as good as what he is, and I will never be as good as what he is. And I think one has to accept that. But what I like to do, there's so many really good drivers in South Africa. Like you take Tate Bishop, Jonathan Thomas, they come out of nowhere and you give them a gap. And they
yeah, I mean, we want to see some of these guys making careers or just given the opportunity. But
exactly.
But there's no shame.
Absolutely not.
In people of our age saying, "Oh, I can't live with it." Well, of course you can't. No. It's realism, and that's the whole pride thing.
We just want to promote them.
In some of the ways, yes, I want to promote these young drivers, but on the flip side, I want to win, and they're going to help me win. So. It's in some ways it's selfish. I'm trying to put the best team together I can from a pace and commercial point of view.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be funding the whole car. As some people are. We're talking about some of the billionaires in European LeMans. They're making more money than they ever spend. So it's the world is their oyster. Where commercially, for me, it still has to make sense. I don't make any money out of my racing, that's for sure. And certainly, you're talking about my team here in South Africa. I'm still paying my way, and my co-drivers are paying their way. I'm not looking for them to subsidise my driving, because the price point here in South Africa is very finite. What somebody is willing to spend, because that point is so low. I saw somebody contact me and said, "Yes, I normally pay for the fuel and tyres." I'm like, "Yes, in what sort of car are you driving?" But that's what I normally do. Why are you really, really good at something? What have you won in the past? Well, nothing. Well, but what about the engine life, the gearbox life, the drive shaft life? Have you ever considered that? Well, why do I want to pay for that? Yeah, because you're driving the car. But it's this misnomer of somebody was complaining about the entry fee for Kyalami on a WhatsApp group with SAS, and I mean it's a fraction of the entry fee in the UK, in Europe, and the Kyalami is a better track than a lot of them in Europe. And someone's saying I'm not happy to pay that, and you're pricing us out of the market. Well, you're not, because the entry fee is actually a tiny part of the overall expenses, as you will know, getting the car there, the sets of tyres, the fuel, the engine rebuilds, etc., etc. So, I think we still battle with that a little bit in South Africa. And when you take these lads to Europe, they think it is a lot of money. And with the rand, the euro exchange rate, it is a lot of money. But it is what it is.
Who determines that price, do you think, at Kyalami, for example? Do they have a racetrack hire situation?
So the promoter would rent the circuit from the circuit owner.
Yeah.
So there is a cost involved. So renting Aldous Grabante would come at a cost, and renting Kyalami would come at another cost. And which would be more expensive. Yeah. But where would you rather race? Yes, I love Aldous Grabante, by the way, but it's
not Kyalami.
It's not Kyalami.
Yeah.
So Toby Venter commercially says, "What you want the track? This is the rate you have to pay me, because that's what gets me a commercial reality, a commercial return. I'm sure he's not making loads of money out of it, just the use of the facility. That's the price. So the organizer will rent the circuit, and then the entry fees, hopefully, then
cover the cost.
Will cover the cost. But with SES, I mean, they lose money every time they go to Kyalami. So I think it's a bit insulting that people are saying, it's too expensive, the entry fee, when SES and Zolly Leclerc is actually taking...
He's bankrolling the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't
Which is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. The guy has been amazing for us.
What he's done for that series is just phenomenal.
And just South African motorsport, which then allows drivers like yourself to bring in younger drivers.
Yeah, he's doing that with Stuart White. You're doing it with you did it with Jonathan Thomas, Bishop Tate. I've done it with Byron Mitchell. going to hopefully use Bishop Tate when you don't use him, just to help me to get a little bit faster, because I need somebody to show me how to drive again.
That's the other thing. It's iron sharpens iron. When you've got these quick drivers with you, you've got no choice but to get faster.
And you will, because
absolutely.
You look at all the data acquisition that we enjoy these days.
Yeah.
If he's braking there with that brake pressure, I can brake there with that brake pressure because the car can do it. I mean, I've learned so much over the years by working with faster drivers. That's one thing that's improved my pace. And I learned back in the days of Clears, when we had quite rudimentary data acquisition, how's the car? I'll see the data first, because I would make a stupid statement like, nobody could brake as late as me in that corner. Oh, they can actually.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And guys like Jonathan Thomas, he's about 50 kilos lighter than I am anyway.
This is true.
Weight.
Oh, yeah, of course. And no, we have not even started on motor racing excuses.
Yeah. Oh, I've got the book here.
No, I mean, my book would be like 3 times the size of that Porsche 911 book there.
So listen, we haven't got to. There's another important part of this podcast, and that Nick's got to do a hot lap.
Yes.
You know, everybody that comes on this program does a hot lap in a car. It's the same for everybody. We don't announce what the car is, and so that you can't go and practice beforehand. So we'll just spring it upon you. And you know, we've had assault helicopter pilots on this program. We've had game rangers that drive off-road vehicles, etc. And it's actually amazing. Somebody like the game ranger did a cracking time. The helicopter pilot did a cracking time, but there's a hand-eye coordination thing. He's been flying attack helicopters in a war environment in Afghanistan and Iraq. There's a lot of hand-eye coordination. Racing is all about.
And I suppose if he's a game ranger or a helicopter pilot, he's actually not worrying about the lap time so much, where us drivers are thinking, don't humiliate myself by putting a full showing in. Yes, indeed. So I think we will put immediate pressure on ourselves, where if I was a game ranger, go, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
But, there's so much that we can still talk about, and we may even have to have a chapter 2 in this thing, because
I do have one more thing before we get there. We still haven't spoken about the highest high. We've had a preamble for it, and I think the listeners out there will be annoyed with me if I don't actually get to that part. So if we could just touch on that before we jump on the sim.
Easy. So the last 10 minutes of the last ELMS race, and I must have mentioned Portimão so many times. All our races at Portimão. No, Portimão is the last race of the season for ELMS in Portugal. Great circuit. They built it in the 2000s to generate basic commercial activity in the Algarve, which is quite depressed. And they did the same at places like Navarra in Spain, Mertland, Aragon. And this place was failing. And it's got a fantastic hotel facility next door. And it's got, you've ever seen it's a roller coaster of different.
MotoGP goes there.
Yes, they do. It's a fantastic circuit. But it was off the map. Nobody was going there. And then during COVID, they had to take a Formula One race there behind closed doors. So the organisers resurfaced the track and transformed it, and it put it on the map. And everybody races there now, and quite rightly so, because the weather's great, the Algarve is cheap, it's a nice place to visit. So our last race of the season is at Portimão, and we were third in the points going into that last race. So remember, ELMS is 6 4-hour races. So we went into that race, and there was myself, Michael Jensen, and Gael Julien. And Gael Julien was born in Madagascar, so he's another person from Africa. But his father was from Indonesia. He was a great lad, very, very good driver. So we had qualified quite poorly because our engineer was trying to force this stiff setup on us for the aero balance, and we're just not happy with it. And in the end, between qualifying and the race, we changed the front springs to a softer spring, which is always quite risky, but it made the car very much more drivable. But poor Michael was so nervous about letting the side down that it affected his driving terribly. And so he sank to the back of the class for the first hour. So I'd already had a discussion with myself and worked out I couldn't do anything different to what I normally do. If I try any harder, I could go off. I don't want to go any slower. Treat it like it's your job. Treat it like it's you getting into an aircraft and flying. That's what you do. So you don't have any emotion attached to it. It's like just what you do. So I removed the emotion from what I was doing. Treat it like it's your job. And we got back into a reasonable position. And then Gail takes over the car. But we're coming from a long way back now.
Yeah.
He's sitting in third place. And he needs to overtake our championship rival, who's in second. And he does that with 10 minutes to go. Beautiful manoeuvre in the penultimate corner, turn 15 at Portimão. And that 10 minutes was like 10 years. I mean, we were pacing up that garage, checking your watch. Is that thing actually working? Because the clock didn't move, because anything could happen in that 10 minutes. We were winning the championship by a point, by a place. So it was incredibly stressful. And on my social media, you'll see the video that Gail Julian's father took in that garage in the last 10 minutes, because it was absolutely horrendous from a stress point of view. Gail was as cool as a cucumber in the car, but the moment we took that checkered flag and we won ELMS, so there I am, 59 years old. I thought my best years were way behind me in racing, and we won one of the biggest motor racing endurance championships in the world, and it was absolutely fantastic. And because Michael was testing the next day in LMP2, we went and had chicken and chips, one beer, and straight to bed.
But you went to bed as a European LeMans champion.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, you never think the best is behind you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's in front of you. So if you'd have said to me, when I was thinking of giving up, don't stop, because you're going to win something. I was like, no, come on, man. That's not going to happen. So it was absolutely incredible. And it allowed me to become a member of the British Racing Drivers Club, which is a very exclusive club as well. So that was another benefit. So I can wear my BRDC badge, which I'm very proud of. And all this at the twilight of 26 years of racing.
Isn't that fantastic? Wow. Well, let's go and test you on let's go and see how you can do on that hot lap against all these other guys that have been here. I'm not going to give you their times, and I'm not going to put their times on the board either. So let's go and do that. And we'll have a little debrief after that.
Great.
Okay.
Just getting used to this car.
Yeah.
Because the corner speed is so much lower, but
it's 148.
Okay, Peter, you've got half your fuel left.
That was a good one.
I'm trying to work out if taking some of these curves helps rotate the car, particularly the last corner.
Yeah.
Sector 2 is 2/10 off your best.
Lovely sim though, Peter. This is beautiful.
Oh, thanks, man.
Very high quality.
Okay, Nick, so you've got 5 laps now in which to give us a reading there.
So this is the pressure time now.
This is the pressure time, yeah. And remember, this is your out lap, so you've got cold tires.
You know, we were talking about iZone. They'll do a pressure session there.
Yeah.
So the pressure sessions are just like this. So you've got a finite time that you've got to do your lap time in.
Yeah, exactly.
And it puts an immense pressure on everybody. So it teaches you to relax behind the wheel. Keep those hands nice and light.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Don't. Warming these tyres up still.
Yeah, and that one you want to get the car straight before you put your foot on the gas. It's such a critical
Quite
one.
lively at the rear on that slow chicanes. Didn't get enough first.
It's still the time you
ruined that one.
Next lap is your last lap.
Okay.
So this one I would take it easy, get the tyres back onto, cool down a bit.
What I've realised, it's all about, you were saying about the exits. You know, it's fairly slow in, but it's fast out.
Yeah.
So you can't hustle it too much into the braking zone. But it's about setting the car up.
Yeah, this is your last lap.
One lap on the clock.
This is your last.
As per the rules.
That's good. You're on track to This is your last lap, and it's looking good so far. This is the pressure lap.
Don't crack under pressure.
Yeah.
Set it 2 times, okay.
That was really enjoyable, actually. I love this sim.
Okay, so we're back, Nick, and you've just done your hot lap. Like everybody that comes on this program needs to do a hot lap, no matter what their career is, whether they're race drivers. But everybody that comes on this program typically is involved in some epic shit or another, and there's some form of petrol heads. And even if they do handbrake turns in the middle of the highways and they go down, you know, we
Even
test
if it's
them.
aviation fuel, they're petrol heads in some way.
Exactly. So I want to ask you, how did you find that lap?
Well, firstly,
How do you think you did?
You've got a fantastic sim.
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
it's a beautiful piece of kit you built there. Much better than mine. I should be looking at mine when I go into my office tomorrow and go, I need some upgrades on this. Your steering wheel's wonderful. All those tech you got on there is quite amazing. Here comes my first motor racing excuse. I've never driven a GT3 car before, or a GTE car. So it was very different to what I'm used to. The weight of the car you feel. So you can't brake super late and get it into the corner. You've got to brake earlier, let the car settle. And the amount of curb you can take in a GT car, if you did that in an LMP car, you'd be on your roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the Ascari there, those sausage curbs, you wouldn't dare touch them in a LMP car. But with that, you're just smashing over them, and the car doesn't move. So that took a lot of getting used to of how much curb you can actually take. So it's slow in, but mid corners good. Take loads of curb, use the exit. It was good, but I probably underdrove myself a little bit. But I think we're all frustrated.
Yeah, no, I think
when you do those
maybe,
laps.
I mean, I think you overdrove it a little bit. Once you started, coming back on the entry speed and getting those mid-corner speeds right, and started getting the feel.
You go a little bit too quick in, you just get
That's
this
it.
terminal understeer.
Yeah, and then of course you get that,
And you don't get an exit then.
overcook the tires, and that just puts you back for the next few corners. GT car is just, you've really got to just nurse those tires. That's the big thing, heavy car.
We see it in ELMS all the time, where when these cars come fresh out of the fresh tyres on, they're super quick. 20 minutes later, they're not, because those tyres got off so quickly.
Yeah.
Now I realise why.
It's all that weight.
Because that weight.
Yeah.
And that's why the GT cars have so many issues with track limits, because they don't want them to go off the track, but they're just finding themselves sliding off the track. It's a different discipline entirely.
Yeah, and that simulator behaves really exactly like the real car.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice about iRacing. They've got it down to, you must see that thing in the rain. The rain that they've created now is exactly the same as in real life. So we do some of our races in the rain, they introduce rain, or they go real-time weather. And then you get these little thunderstorms that come over, and then you into the pits back on, with the wets. And the lovely thing about iRacing as well is, to fix it in the pits, when we got damage on, takes exactly the same time as what it takes to fix the real car in the pits. So, they've got it calculated so beautifully. Like if you hit the wall at 45 degrees, so many Gs, you're going to break these components, because the cars are bought from the factory. So Porsche provide for example, their RSR or their GT3 car or the Lamborghinis. It comes from the factory to iRacing, and iRacing then sell it to us.
Insane.
But all those cars come directly from the original design. So they sound the same, they have the same damage with the same crash components.
These simulators, these are amazing. Obviously, I've been in a British Airways simulator. My son was interested in flying, and how incredibly accurate that sim is. Now, racing sims have taken on the same. And one of our data engineers wants to get into racing is a guy called Navesh. He lives in Durban. His job is also on simulators. You think simulator company in Durban? What's that about then? So he works on simulators for these massive, great big excavators you see in mines across Africa. These huge, great big 40-ton things. So it fits in a container. They'll take it anywhere in Africa, and they'll teach the people to drive those huge trucks in a sim.
They can literally get out of that simulator into the real thing and do exactly the same.
It's a bit like a proper flight simulator.
Yeah.
In a flight simulator, as you know, when you're going down the runway, and the nose wheel is touching the cat's eye, you can feel it bumping.
Yeah.
It's that accurate.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So, and I believe people can go directly from a simulator to a commercial aircraft and fly it because
exactly what we do.
The switchgear is the same, the experience is exactly the same. So think about that with the great big Tonka truck. That's what they do, and it's incredible. All the sensors on it are the same, so they can get out that truck and the simulator and start working.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's how I train on my jets. I mean, when I change a jet type, for example, go from one make to another, we do a full course and then we do the simulator training, and we get out of that simulator, we go to the real aircraft and we go. It's exactly the same. And I must say, our racing have got it. That's what all the Formula One drivers do. Max Verstappen. I've landed up in a couple of races against him in iRacing.
Yeah, he's obsessed, isn't he? I believe
he's so bloody good. Yeah. Jesus.
He's on
he
another
drove
level,
the
that
shit
guy.
out of us. And I watched one of his TV interviews, and he said that he trains. He does 50 hours of simulated training before every Formula One race. So the guy said to him, well, so if you've got 1 week between races, that means 10 hours a day. He said, yes. So
how do you compete with that, eh?
But that's why these guys can do every lap within 1/10 of a second. Every lap, well, within 100th of a second almost. It's the only way to do it is on a simulator. You can never do it in the real environment. Anyway, let's get to your lap. So, how did you find your lap? What do you think? How well do you think you did?
Meh.
But remember, everybody's got the same handicap. So we have a game driver, we have a helicopter pilot. They all had exactly the same preparation as what you had. They were given the same amount of time. So one has to actually acknowledge how well they did with never having driven a race car. But it boils down back to the fact that hand-eye coordination, the feel, obviously the simulator's got to feel as real as possible, and which that one does. And so we had a guy that we found in the Spa, not the Spa racetrack, but the Spa grocery store, strolling around there, that we asked him to come and do a hot lap on the simulator, and he set the bar here. He came in here and he he gave us a track time, and we don't call him the Stig, we call him the Twig, and this damn Twig set a time here, and we kind of like been using that as the benchmark time. And so far, nobody's been able to beat his time, believe it or not, except Byron Mitchell. Byron Mitchell came here and beat his time, and then, of course, I ran it past the Twig. I said, hey, your time has just been beat. Then he said, hang on, send me his data. And I sent the data file to him, and he looked at it and he said, somehow or another, the track was a lot cooler when he did the trap.
Is that a book of excuses again, eh?
Indeed. You took the words out of my mouth.
I mean, track temperature is critical.
Oh, tyres, engine. I mean, it's worth probably more than a second.
Absolutely. So he's going to come back and set the simulator hot lap time so that the track temperature is fixed. And so we've got that pretty much waxed at the moment.
Nice.
So he's going to come back and reset the time. But so we've had so far on the program, we've had Jonathan Thomas. So if I relate him to the Twig's time, the Twig did I better just make damn sure I get this right. And
Keep us in suspense.
so, the Twig, who's this unknown guy that, I don't know, I've actually got a little program that I'm going to release now shortly on him. He did a 144.5.
Very, very strong.
And you did a 146.2. So
I think that deserves a round of
1.7
applause under the
seconds.
table. Yeah, there we go.
Well done, Mr. Twig.
So that's not bad at all.
not bad.
Jonathan Thomas did a 145.5. So he was 1 second off the Twig's time against all odds.
So 7/10 slower than Jonathan.
Yeah.
Given that he's 3 decades younger than me, that's not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. But then we had a assault helicopter pilot who's never driven a car in his life, who actually did... let's see. So you actually at the moment are the third. The Twig did 44, then it's Jonathan Thomas, then yourself. Bearing in mind, Byron Mitchell did a 144.
But that doesn't count. Sorry, Byron. It doesn't count.
Yeah, track temperature.
Different track.
Yeah,
Different track temperature.
But he probably would have matched the Twig's time. So I mean, with all due respect to him, I mean he's so far the fastest.
Look, you
And
would say that he's
Jonathan
your
Thomas.
driver. He's your driver.
Yeah, he's the fastest on this thing, and then there's Jonathan Thomas, and then you, and then the helicopter pilot who did a 151.5. No, that's
Considering
not
it's
bad.
evident, because Monza is a tricky track to learn.
Yeah.
I've raced there, so I know the nuances of it. So somebody to come out of the box and do that was pretty
He's
commendable.
but he was an assault helicopter for 20 years, and he's fresh, and he's today he does, Mikey K does the security brief on BBC. He's doing it at the moment still. Every week he's on talking about all the wars and stuff. He's a weapons expert himself as well, and he also won the best soldier in the world. I mean, they had a big SAS and Mossad and all these oaks compete against each other, and he actually won that. So he's quite a boykie. And he's 52. I think he's 52 years old, and never driven a race car in his life. So he's actually behind you by 5 seconds, roughly. And then we had the Game Ranger, who drives a Land Rover or a Land Cruiser. You'd kill me if I said a Land Rover. Who did a 151.9. 4/10 slower than the helicopter pilot.
Commendable.
From a game driving vehicle. But if you think about it, you're driving over
all day.
And 4x4ing is another big thing. I mean, it's I just set a world record recently with my
So I believe.
with my whole thing. But there's a lot to do with 4x4ing. There's also a whole
We can't
different-
just glaze over the world record. What are you talking? I don't know about this world record. What are you talking about?
No Porsche product has ever been down the hell. Have you heard of the hell? It's near Prince Albert.
I saw a video of you doing what should not be done in a Porsche type driving.
So that's serious Land Cruiser, Land Rover territory. No SUV from Porsche product or any Porsche product has ever been down there. All sorts of cars have been down there. So on the first Porsche, not only an SUV, a 911, to get down there and back
Nice.
out of there. Yeah,
Nice.
it's 50 Ks down, 49 Ks down, and you've got to come the same way back up again. And on the same day that I did it, they towed a Land Cruiser and a Land Rover, what do they call it, Sport, out of there. And to tow them out of there, they had to get a tow vehicle from Oudtshoorn to come there, and the guy had to reverse his tow truck down there because you can't turn around on that track.
Did you film it? Have you got it? Something you should put on YouTube?
I've got mine. Yeah,
Yeah, you should.
I actually want to I'm going to do a little a little article like this
Nice.
on that. And everybody said, when I announced that I'm going to give it a go, everybody said, forget it. Even the guys that built these cars, these rally guys, forget it. You're never going to make it down there. You don't have the ground clearance. You don't have this. You're going to destroy the car, etc., etc. I went
Did it
down
anyways.
there, but I used all my 4x4 talent because I used to do quite a lot of motocross and 4x4. I love it. I love doing it. But so Rob Barber, who's a game ranger in the Okavango Delta. I mean, he was only 4/10 off Mikey K, who was a helicopter pilot. And then we had Alex Stoos on here, who's a motocross race driver, these 4x4 bikes.
Quad bikes.
Quad bike racer, Harley Davidson builder, and one of the best bike builders in the world today, and he did a 153.4, which is interesting. I mean, being such a racing bike and so on and so forth. So it's clear that you as a seasoned veteran race driver is this far behind Jonathan Thomas. 1 second, basically. Not even 1 second behind.
The girl got to beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
Set this up and
So we may have to have a little rerun, a little shootout.
As soon as Jonathan sees this episode, he's going to start practicing it.
Yeah. So I really think you did. I mean, you did exceptionally well. I mean, I could see your time coming down on every lap. I mean, as you started
You're just
getting
getting used to the
getting a hang of the car.
nuances of the heavy car.
Yeah. And I mean, it shows you being
No,
a
it's
race
very
driver.
enjoyable. Thank you very much.
I mean,
and I'm sure that list is going to grow as you get more guests on your fantastic show.
I've got Stuart White coming up.
Oh, that's
I've got Kwande Mukene. He's coming on, and so I'm going to have Bishop Tate
Yeah, let's
on
get
here
Tate
as well.
along.
Yeah, I'm going to get them on. I want to get
because
Michael
he's got
Steve.
his him and his father have got their karting academy. That's well worth talking
Yeah,
about.
they just
really?
opened up
Okay.
opposite in Killarney Gardens, haven't they?
Yes, they were on Rivergate, where I am, and they've moved to be closer to the track.
Yeah,
so
I've been
they
to the
can,
Rivergate premises. Yeah.
They're trying to get people to come from the karting circuit to the main circuit.
Oh, okay.
So
great-
that's
great
the program
initiative.
they're doing. Trying
Great
to,
initiative.
Get more people to come and. Well, certainly once people have finished karting,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Yeah.
I remember talking to Andy Rackstraw. He said all the time I was doing karting, I never even thought about the main circuit. It was like two different worlds. And when you go to the kart circuits,
It's a separate world.
it is a different world.
Yeah.
You've got the races over there and the vibe over there and what they do there and what they measure over there. And the main circuit got their own.
There is a lot more cross-pollination going on. I go hang out at the karting circuit sometimes. I know Jason, our videographer, the man behind the camera here today, he does that as well, goes and films there. I think it's starting to slowly happen. I've worked with Charles Visser and a couple of other young drivers to just help them change gears. Because they're quick. I sat with Charles Visser the first time we went around the track in the tin top, and I felt it. I felt his talent. I could feel this guy, there's something there, but he still couldn't change gears properly. And then once he learned that, obviously, next thing you know, the guy was winning Polo Cup.
So well, I want to get a lot of the race drivers on here, especially these youngsters. And what do you think of the concept, Nick, of us having a couple of race drivers on the program?
That's brilliant.
I want to really. I mean, we've got so much more to talk about.
No, we'll have to
We
have
may
part
even
two.
do
Yeah.
a part two
As,
on this.
as I've just realised, I've been doing it for so long. I've got a lot of experiences and stories, for better or for worse, to talk about. And if I can share some of those experiences, if it helps anybody else, then all to the good.
Exactly. I mean, and we also want to get into the stuff that the public really want to know about. How to get into racing, for example, and what it costs to actually race, and what goes on in the pits.
I think now's a good time to say, anybody who's watching this, if you have any questions, stick it in the comments.
Yeah, stick it in the
Absolutely.
comments,
Yeah,
and
There's no such thing as a dumb question.
give us a like.
Please ask away, because we all started knowing nothing and have learnt. So when you're on the outside looking in, you want to get on the inside.
And motorsport
and you need
really
any
is like
advice.
that. It feels like that the
very
first
much
time you get to the track. You feel because everybody else is vibing with one another.
Yeah.
And we all part of the same community.
But I'd like to get that vibe closer knit. Clolile Clark is also going to come on. Stuart's going to bring in both. They're going to come together. And that's going to be a wonderful a wonderful interview as well, and because I mean he's also bringing up the youngsters.
No,
and,
he's been brilliant, as we said earlier. He's put a lot of resources and time into SAES, commendable, and he's on a journey himself of learning.
He's done
and racing.
phenomenally
He's
well.
improved
abroad.
so much.
I mean, if you see where he came from, and in a
He's
very
lost
short
a lot
period
of weight
time.
as well.
He's taking it incredibly seriously. He has
can
to
see.
at that level.
Yeah.
You can see.
He's doing some Graventic races. He did some of the races in the Middle East. He's bought a fantastic new Ferrari 296, which
Race car, or just
brand new GT3 car,
really?
which is he's racing it in Europe.
Wow.
So and he's building a team over there in the Netherlands. So he's got lots of stories to tell. I mean, he's got big ambitions.
And I love how he supports South African drivers.
And what he's doing with our series. So, I've all respect to the man. A bit like us, it's not that we're interested in motor racing; we're obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately one of those things.
But we are obsessed with it, and
Yeah.
I shall, tonight I should be catching up on the race results. British touring cars at Alton Park.
Yeah.
Who won the Nürburgring 24 Hours? It's
The never ends.
can't leave it
We
alone.
hope it doesn't then.
Can't leave it alone, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. So we're going to continue with this program, and I'm looking forward to having Kwande Mukena. To me, I almost see him as the replacing our Formula One driver. That's sort of on the brink of retiring, I think. Who might that be?
Formula One driver.
Formula One driver. Who do you think I'm
Formula
talking
One
about?
Gone over my head.
The only black driver in the Formula One
Yeah.
series.
Well, it was interesting. We were talking about SAS earlier, and somebody was on the phone to me saying, yes, what we need to do, we need to open up this series. We want more diversity. And I kept on and on and on about diversity. I said, you do realise that you've got a black champion in SAS?
Absolutely.
And you never
He won the 20.
publicised it at all. And there you are saying, I need to open up to all, all
These things need to
all
be
races
spoken
and
about
colours.
more.
I said, but you've already got a champion.
Yeah. These things need to be spoken about more. And that's why platforms like this that shine a light on those, it just gleans over the fact that he won a championship.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what Tolile Leclerc, who's really pushing the series and to get more of the underprivileged guys into racing. Sponsorship is a big thing.
Yeah. But there are many roles available.
And then you see Kwande. I mean, if he weighs 50 kilos, it's a lot.
50 kilos soaking wet.
Yeah. And he's got an unbelievable talent, I still can't, when he sits in that car, I mean, he's going to get a hell of a cushion. I mean, he's going to put cushions and stuff, and he's going to look over the dashboard, and he's tiny.
Yeah.
He's unbelievably talented. And, we got to push those guys. Yeah. And, I mean, he's going to be on the program soon. His dad said, Kwame, he just said, let me know when I can put him in. I'll fly him down tomorrow. Because this program I want to use to punt these people, to really put them out there and get them recognized, and that's why we're doing this program, really.
They can tell their stories.
Yeah. It's like I'm telling my stories bit by bit as time goes on. All right, guys, I think that's it. We wrapped up.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, as they say.
It's really good to have you on, Nick. I mean, I've always wanted to hear your story, and out of the horse's mouth, as they say. I've watched a lot of your stuff in the past and watched you come and go in the pits and lane and seen how disciplined you are on your team and keeping all the riffraff out of your... when you focus, you really are focused. And, I mean, the results speak for themselves. And you've got an unbelievable team now, with... Is Michael Stephen going to be running with you?
Well, Michael is in the car for the year in Europe.
And locally?
Locally, if we have that opportunity. The next race is at Kyalami, and that's Charles Visser, Michael Jensen and myself. Nice. And then we've got the Swart Cops race clashes with the race I've got in Europe, and then it's the 9 hour. So we still get to secure that final lineup for the 9 hour, but I know Jonathan Thomas wants to do it with us.
Lap record holder at Kyalami.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Very proud of that.
I want to ask a quick question before we sign off. This SAS, they call it a driver's championship. So if the same 2 drivers do the whole series and they win, why do they award one driver first place and the other driver second place?
I do not know the answer to that, Peter, because it should be the same point.
Byron Mitchell and myself, 2023, we did the whole series together. We came third in Class A, and they gave one of us a 4th place trophy.
Shame.
There must be a typo there.
I took it up with the organizer, the chief guy that owns the series. Not that owns the series, Riddell, Mr. Riddell.
I know you're talking about.
And I said, I don't get this. Who do I give the 3rd place and the 4th place trophy to? And he said, Pete, you don't understand. This is a driver's championship. I said, I get it.
Mm.
So we both came
I've also
third.
seen that with some results I got, and I thought, well, it doesn't look right, but I never queried it.
And he kept saying it's a driver. I said, yeah, we both came third. We both did the
Yeah, you
whole
should have
series
exact number of
together.
points.
We should both get a 3rd place trophy. Now I'm sitting with one 4th place trophy. Who do I give it?
So in Ultimate Cup, for example, Michael, Stephen and myself had driven together all year and we're on the same number of points.
Yeah.
So we're tied for 4th in the championship at the present time.
Yeah, so you both
So
get.
if we win the championship, we're both in the championship. He won't be second. So no.
So for whoever's listening out there, guys, do something about this. I mean, come on. If you do it together and you're in the same points, you both get the same bloody prize. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm still thinking, here's my trophy sitting over there.
Has Byron got the 4th place one?
Of course he has.
Did I?
Well, it was your
No.
car, Peter.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually gave him the 3rd. Third, there's my 4th, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to go and remake the label.
Yeah.
I'm going to put
No.
3.
The last race we did at Kyalami, we had 2 trophies for 4 drivers. So I gave the one trophy to Louis Maurice, who's from France.
Yeah.
So he can take a nice souvenir home. And I order replicas for the other
Nice.
2.
Order
So everyone
replicas.
gets-
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to discard that 4th place, take the label off, toss it. I mean, it just does not make sense to me.
I
I had
agree.
a lot of heated debates
It
with
clearly
him.
rankles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, if you enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. And let's get this channel going. And hope to see you guys soon on the next program.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ernst, for coming to
Pleasure
join
to
me
be
today.
here.
And
Pleasure to be here.
we may very well do some more of these together.
Let's see. I
You
hope
come with
so.
all your knowledge on, I mean, you've been commentating for years. I mean, you know all the ins and outs about all the drivers and so on. I'm still getting to know them but we'll do it.
We'll do it
Thanks
together.
very much. Thanks
Thank you, Pete.
so much, Nick, for
Till the
coming
next
on.
time.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.